is a place where all life thrives, where every creature is respected, compassionately saving lives, and no one is rejected. Our world of peace and harmony, we call this planet. There is a place where all life thrives. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. Oh, a world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. There is a place where all life thrives, where every creature is respected, compassionately saving lives, and no one is rejected. Our world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. Oh, a world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B.
Honey, I'm on.
There is a place where all life thrives, where every creature is respected, compassionately saving lives, and no one is rejected. Our world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. This place we know is upside down, a chaos of extremes. In unity we turn it around and live the life of dreams. A world of peace and harmony, we call this planet B. We know it's upside down.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Welcome to the Vegan World 22nd Convergence of the Peoples, Thriving on Planet B. I'm Rebecca Allen, your MC, one of your MCs this weekend. We'll also have Marikita Solis, who will MC this afternoon and tomorrow morning. We're all so glad you're here. If you have tech questions, please put them in the chat. If you have other questions, you will see the designated chat that you can be in. And now we'll take a moment for some words from the Interfaith Vegan Coalition with Julie Griffin. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, and good day, everyone. Dear friends, colleagues, and climate healers, welcome to VCOP 22, the Convergence of the People. To Dr. Silas Rao, our architect of change, whose steadfast vision lights our way, and to Rebecca Allen, whose effort in production gathers us in these moments of reflection, I offer our deepest thanks. And to our many amazing speakers, and to each one of you, thank you for your time and for sharing your unique ideas and insights. It is here in this sacred gathering that our collective courage abounds. Now, dear ones, let's take a moment to create peace inside our hearts and minds. If you so choose, you may close your eyes. With each breath you take, feel the courage to act, to nurture, and to protect the fragile web of life. Feel the earth's pulse resonate inside your being, like a symphony of heartbeats echoing across all creation. Let peace settle upon your spirit, for tranquility is the soil from which courage most easily grows. To mend this world, our cherished home, let us honor her with deeds that are as nourishing as the rains and as consistent as the seasons. Let us create our planet B, Earth, as our wise and loving choice, a green world vibrant with peace and renewal that feeds all. Imagine a world where every plate tells a tale of kindness, where the choice of a delicious and affordable vegan diet becomes the chorus of a new dawn. It's a simple yet profound change, a dewdrop that when multiplied becomes an ocean of transformation. Our Earth, our bright celestial body, needs us now more than ever. We, her children, must answer her call. There is no cause more crucial, no mission more pressing, more healing and safeguarding than this one that we are set upon to safeguard our only home. Rewinding, rewilding, and reimagining a place of harmony and sustainable living. So, my dear friends, there is much each of us can do. There is much that you can do, and the time is now. Throughout this event, Dr. Rao and Climate Healers core team and our splendid slate of speakers will educate and inspire us to be the change. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And may all beings be happy, healthy, free, and fed.
Thank you so much, Julie. That was beautiful.
My pleasure.
And now, welcome to the 22nd Vegan Convergence of the Peoples. I'm Rebecca Allen, and honored to introduce to you an incredible systems thinker, a visionary, Dr. Silas Rao. He's a human, earth, animal liberation activist, a husband, a dad, and as we all know, a loving grandfather. He is the founder of and the executive director of Climate Healers, a nonprofit dedicated towards healing the Earth's climate. Dr. Silas Rao has over 3 decades of professional experience. He's a systems specialist with a PhD in electrical engineering from Stanford University. Dr. Rao worked on the internet communications infrastructure for 20 years after his graduation. He studied the climate systems, and he has produced some of your favorite documentaries, from Cowspiracy to The Sustainability Secret to A Prayer for Compassion. He's authored incredible books, including Carbon Dharma, The Occupation of Butterflies, and Carbon Yoga, The Vegan Metamorphosis, The Pinky Promise, and Animal Agriculture is Immoral, an anthology. And most recently, There is a Planet B. Please welcome Dr. Silas Rao, Thriving on Planet B. Silas Rao.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Let me start sharing my presentation. Okay, so the theme for this convergence is thriving on planet B. And I wanted to just set the stage for that and explain the thinking behind this. Planet B to us is the same planet, but we are looking at the dominant system upside down. And the good news is every one of us can join Planet B today. So you don't have to wait. It's already there, and we can work on it, and you can step into it and work on it starting today if you want. So what do we mean by this Planet B? It's a planet where we take care of each other, we take care of all life, and we become truly the custodial species of the planet. And so I look at it as the world turned upside down. So I wrote a book called There is a Planet B, and the book is actually written upside down. So when you open the book, it looks like you have to read it from the back to front. And the intent is to make us think differently. Yeah. And the three things I ask people to do or to be on Planet B is to be positive, be sure that you are on the right path. Be positive and highlight the positive about what's happening around the world, because whatever we highlight amplifies in the universe. So if we keep highlighting the negative, that gets amplified. So we need to be positive. We need to stay as if this is the path we're all going to be on, because eventually I don't see any other way out for us. Second is to be free. And what I mean by that is I base it on James Baldwin, who said that his dad told him that what other people think of you is none of your business. So when you stop waiting for approval from others to do your thing, to dance your dance, to be who you are, then you become free, truly free, to do what you think is right. So that's the second one. And the third one, I want to tell the story today of how we actually belong exactly as we are. And that this Planet B is the next stage in our evolution. And that Mother Earth has been asking us to do this. And that's what we are all gathered here to do. So, so be positive, be free, and belong. Know that you belong no matter where you are. Okay? Now, the Planet B idea is based on Berkana Institute's two loops model. And basically, in the two loops model, they said big living systems can never be changed from within. Because every system is a set of elements and processes that are designed to accomplish a certain objective. Like when we design a motor car, for instance, we have all these, you have to make an engine, you have to make a body, you have to make this steering wheel, a transmission, and so on. I mean, if you just put that down on the ground, it doesn't do anything. It's only when you put it all together and you have a flow of fuel through the system that you get it to do what it's intended to do, which is to move you from one place to another. In the same way, systems are how we collaborate among millions and billions of us and become so powerful as a species. And that power we have been accumulating over the last 10,000 years. So I see this as, our ancestors decided they had to do something. So they migrated out of Africa and went to every part of the world 50,000 years ago to accomplish that. And then for the last 10,000 years, we've been gathering the strength. So this is the first two stages of right action, according to the Mahabharata. There is dharma, so knowing what is the right thing to do. Then there is strength, accumulating the strength you need to accomplish that objective. Then comes the courage. That's the third son. In Mahabharata has five sons, okay, as the main characters. The eldest son is about justice. The second son is about strength. The third son is about courage. And the fourth and fifth sons are basically twins who are about kindness and compassion. So you have to have the courage to execute the transformation or whatever needs to be done. And then you have to do it with kindness and compassion. That's the phase that we are in. That is planet B. So to go from planet A to planet B, it's not about transitioning planet A into planet B. It's about just moving out of planet A and becoming the trailblazers on planet B. So that's the first group of people who create this new loop, the second loop. Trailblazers are one, and then illuminators are the storytellers who tell the story about this transformation, about what's happening, and get everyone enthused about it. And then there are the protectors who basically have resources in planet A, who then deploy the resources to help planet B thrive. And so today I say that given the state of the world today, any further investment in planet A will lead to stranded assets. It's useless. Don't do it. So please look at how you can invest in planet B, in helping planet B grow. Okay, so that's the role of the protectors. And finally, there are the hospice workers. And these are the ones who help systems in the old planet A die out gracefully because it's no longer useful, it's no longer relevant for what we need to accomplish, and then help people transition from what they were doing on planet A into something useful that they could deploy their skills towards on planet B. So those are the four kinds of people who who help with the transformation from planet A to planet B. Now, this is about thriving on planet B. How do we thrive on planet B? Okay, so assume that there are a lot of people already working on planet B, and I'll tell you that this is true. It's already happening. Okay, who are these people? These are the vegans. The vegans are the trailblazers of planet B. One set of trailblazers on planet B. There are others. There are people who are not yet vegan, but they are looking at, say, economic systems, or they're looking at how do you create different products without using animals. I mean, there are lots of people who are working on different aspects of this planet B. But vegans are the core, foundation of planet B. And our definition of vegan is vitally engaged guardians of animals and nature. So it captures the role we are playing. It captures the social justice aspect of veganism. And of course, the official definition, according to the Vegan Society of UK, is a way of living that seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. And fortunately, this definition was put in place like 60, 70 years ago. But fortunately, now we know that we don't need to use animals for any purpose whatsoever. Okay, we have established that that's true. We don't have to use them for any purpose whatsoever. So I say the only thing we really need from animals today is forgiveness, nothing else. So we can go about our business, we can do what we need to do without exploiting animals. And of course, if you don't want to exploit animals, you obviously don't want to exploit other people either. So it's about social justice. It's about ethics. It's about the environment. It's about health. It's about spirituality. And this is why we're all gathered here talking about the vegan, this vegan convergence of the peoples, because this is the one key aspect that no one else is talking about. And you go to any UN meeting, they're serving meat, even though they know that animal agriculture is the leading cause of whatever problem that they're facing, that they're trying to resolve. So it's that one thing that everyone ignores because they're stuck on planet A. They're stuck in the first loop. And so those of us who are peeled off and come and who are in the second loop in planet B, now we are now figuring out how to create systems in planet B so that we can now gather our strength in numbers. So there are now, the estimate is anywhere from 100 million to 300 million vegans, conscious vegans on the planet, not to mention the billions who are vegan by default because they don't have access to animal foods or to eat. Okay. But they're all trying on planet A to get to that level. So this is why I say, please be open about your veganism. Please be out and proud as vegans. Because only when you're out and proud as vegans that you cause people on planet A to rethink. It's not about making them comfortable, you know. It's about telling them the truth about what really needs to happen today. What really needs to happen today is for us to stop using animals for any purpose whatsoever. That's what the environment is telling us we need to do. It's not about just changing our food system and then ignoring any other aspect of the veganism. So this is why even though I think there is a place for the plant-based movement, I think the vegan movement is the one that is actually necessary at the moment to help people transform. Because people don't change when they're feeling comfortable. They only change when they are uncomfortable. So telling them the truth about what needs to happen may make some people uncomfortable. That's okay, because only then will they change. So it's not about comfort anymore. Okay, and so when the world goes vegan, we know that we can return 40% of the land back to nature. So thriving on planet B is about restoring the forests and the wild and the other wild systems that used to be there on that land. Okay, and confining ourselves to consuming only plant-based foods and creating everything with just plants. Clothing you need with plants. Everything should be done with plants and not with animals. So only then will you be able to free that land and return it back to nature. And of course, when you free land and return it back to nature, it's a completely different system altogether. So it's a system that's objective function is to restore the planet, not to extract from the planet. So for that, you'll need a different economic system. You'll need a different political system. You need every system needs to be redesigned for this different objective function. Okay, and it's not such a hard design problem for us to, and a lot of people are already working on different aspects of this problem. So that's assuming that we only touch this, and then we can look at our consumption. Do we really need to use 22% of our land for logging, for timber? So when we stop this conspicuous consumption, which is happening on planet A, and just take what we need and use it to figure out how to solve our problems that we are facing today, then you may even return some of this land back to nature. Then you may even return some of the unused land, the deserts, back to nature as well, further down the road. Okay, so this is the possibility of what we could be doing when we are thriving on planet B. And it can happen very, very fast. That's the good news. See, in Ethiopia, on one day, so this is a UN environmental program, environmental program article. that was published in 2019, 2nd of August 2019. So Ethiopia got together, and there are only 23 million people in Ethiopia. So the government designated 1,000 areas that people could go and plant trees in. And then they told them we need to beat the record that India had set in 2016, I believe, or maybe earlier, 2010 or so. And India had planted 50 million trees in one day. And Ethiopia said, we need to beat that. And the people got together, and 23 million people planted 350 million trees in a single day. Now, if all 8 billion of us could do what Ethiopians did on one day, we would be planting 120 billion trees in a single day, which means you could plant 1 trillion trees. If you really want to, you can plant 1 trillion trees in about 8 days. We have to act like Ethiopians. We all have to become Ethiopians for 8 days. Of course, there's a lot of prep work that they did to get to that day, so let's say we space it out over, 1 day per month. That's 8 months. In 8 months, you could plant 1 trillion trees. And the good news is when you plant 1 trillion trees, nature plants 2 trillion trees. Nature will double what you're doing. Because you just send a message to nature saying, I want the trees to come back, and she'll do the rest for us. So it's not that hard to get to a planet B in which now you're addressing all the environmental issues that we are facing today. And we have to do this in an open source economy and ecology. And what I mean by that is no more of this, it's my idea, or this is mine, it's yours. No, everything is open source. You just give it away. Any idea you come up with, you give it away. So it's only when you don't have that secrecy that you can accomplish this overall objective that's larger than us. This is a simple rule that we know in engineering, right? When you're working on an engineering project, you're basically working on something that's larger than yourself. And I don't expect my fellow engineers to keep secrets from each other. Not about the overall objective. There are other secrets they can keep, but not about the overall objective. So this is why it has to be an open source economy and ecology. And we'll be monitoring the planetary boundaries and making sure that every planetary boundary that's gone into the red zone is moving towards the green zone. And if it is not moving towards the green zone, we are analyzing why it is not moving towards the green zone, and then we are figuring out how to solve that. So right now we know that there are 7 planetary boundaries that have been transgressed. And I've gone through that in previous talks. Previously they said there were 6: freshwater change, land system change, and then climate change, and then biogeochemical flows, novel entities, and biosphere integrity, in that order. And just recently, they said that ocean acidification has also moved from green towards yellow. So, and ocean acidification also happens because of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And so when we restore the forests on the land, it addresses ocean acidification as well. So the good news is that restoring the forests on the land and rewilding the land brings all 7 of these transgressions from red towards green. It's expected, at least. Now, if it doesn't do that, we have to figure out why it's not doing that. But we are expecting all 7 of them to go from red towards green on planet B. And so that's what we'll be monitoring. So we'll constantly be working to make sure that we are helping planet Earth. And there are also seven tipping points in the climate system that are in the 1 to 2 degrees Celsius range. So we don't know whether they've been triggered or not, but they're all moving in the wrong direction at the moment. So first is the Greenland ice sheet collapse, then the Barents Sea ice abrupt loss, the Labrador Sea ice. So this is the North Atlantic Ocean current, and then the Arctic winter sea ice. So that's also melting. and the low latitude coral reefs, and the West Antarctic ice sheet collapse. And finally, they've added the Amazon rainforest dieback also in the 1 to 2 degrees Celsius range. So it's not in the 2 to 4, it's now in the 1 to 2 degrees Celsius range. So these 7 uh, tipping points in the climate system we'll be monitoring and seeing if they're going in the right direction once we start restoring all the forests. And if they're going in the right direction, then they haven't reached the tipping point and we are in good shape. Okay. But if they're not going in the right direction, we'll have to figure out how much faster that we can sequester carbon on land and see if we can turn that around. So if you ask me today as a systems engineer, have we gone beyond the point of no return? I say I don't know. I would say I don't know. And the only way to know is for us to actually do this experiment of implementing planet B and then verifying whether these tipping points are going in the right direction. That's the only way to know. It's impossible to model these things and predict accurately whether we are gone beyond the point of no return or not. Okay. So be positive. I am. There is always, as long as the oxygen is still there in the atmosphere, and as long as we are still alive, we have work to do. So planet B begins with a values transformation, from deception to honesty, domination to humility, from death to happiness, disease to health, and destruction to harmony. So the honesty, humility, happiness, health, and harmony, that's the thriving that happens on planet B. So we have to be open. It's possible that I'm wrong in some of these things. So I'm open to that possibility. So if people tell me, hey, you're not considering this, I'm happy to take a look at that and change my story accordingly. So we have to have that honesty and we have to have that humility. We are not here to boss over the animals or boss over each other. We are here to serve them. And that's when you'll become happy and healthy and live in harmony with the earth. So this is going from ego, the climate heating phase, to the seva phase, which is you're serving the animals. You're at the very bottom. You're serving the animals in the climate healing phase and serving each other. And once we stabilize the planet, then we can go into this climate harmonizing phase where you're all equal. So it begins with self-transformation. I told you about the mental thing we need to do, being positive, and belong and be free. Okay, that's the mental aspect. And then physically, you have to have a healthy vegan diet, regular exercise, the 8 healing habits, right? Regular exercise, yogasanas, conscious breathing or pranayama, so regular health routines, meditation and awareness, adequate rest and sleep, a sense of purpose, which we now do because we have a planet that needs to be saved, and finally contact with nature. So these 8 healing habits will help us thrive, will be helping us thrive on planet B, and which you can adopt today. So no one is stopping us from doing this. So here we are, folks. We are this pale blue dot suspended on a sunbeam, as Carl Sagan said. And the scientists are telling us that for the sun, the habitable zone around the sun, where you expect liquid water on the surface, is from 0.99 AU to 1.72 AU. Okay, that's from, so AU is the astronomical unit, which is the average distance between the sun and the earth. So the first order and second order models are telling us that we are very close to the inner edge of the habitable zone. So when you get to the inner edge of the habitable zone around the sun, if you go past the inner edge, this planet gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and the water vapor then eventually just vaporizes into the atmosphere and creates this huge greenhouse blanket. Okay, so then it basically cooks everything, and then the water vapor then disappears. So we are at the edge of that. And so that at that edge, Mother Nature spawned us as a species, and we learned how to control fire and start fire at will. And then we migrated out of Africa. We went to every part of the world. And then over the last 10,000 years, we have been using that skill of starting fire to gather our strength as a species. And we built systems that made us more and more powerful, even though individually we are not more powerful than most of the animals in the world. Okay? So we became very powerful as a species. Now we are actually changing the life support systems of the planet. That's a lot of power that we have. So as soon as we discover that we are actually changing the life support systems of the planet, we become responsible for stabilizing them and maintaining them. That's our job. So that's the active feedback that we need, the planet needs at the inner edge of the habitable zone, so that we can thrive for another 100 million years, or however many more years. So this is a positive story. This is a story of belonging. This is knowing that what our ancestors did was not a mistake. So I believe that nature does not make mistakes. Nature is the perfect system design. She is, I mean, nature knows what she's doing. So when you start with that assumption, all these things, just start making sense. And so we have been called to stabilize the life support systems and maintain them for the benefit of all life. And that's what we have been doing. And now we have to have the courage to get into this next phase of Planet B. And I don't spend much time even following the news on Planet A or anything like that. There's a lot of uh, turmoil going on in the old model as it collapses. But that's okay. That's their problem. We have to just focus on helping everyone understand this story. And you can become either an eliminator, you can become a trailblazer, you can become a hospice worker, or you can become a protector, depending on what resources you have available to you. And you can play different roles at different times. But the time is now for all of us to come together and make this transformation happen, to go from planet A to planet B. So I'll be doing more frequent newsletters on Planet B, and also I'll be doing a lot of podcasts explaining my ideas on Planet B and on the different aspects of the systems that we have to build on Planet B. And that will be, so those will be podcasts that we'll put on our Climate Healers YouTube page and on our Climate Healers Spotify account and so on. And I'm planning to do that starting the first of the month in August. Okay. So please stay tuned. These are exciting times, and I'm so glad that you're all here, that we are all working together to make this happen. So with that, I'm going to throw the floor open for questions that people may have.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. That was wonderful. And I'm going to give some instructions to people about how to raise their hand, and they have to come on screen. That's one of the things that we have, is you have to come on screen. So turn on your camera, raise your hand. Raise your hand first, and our tech people will let you turn on your camera, and then we will let you ask you to unmute. So thought I saw a hand up there. And if not, if you don't want to come on screen, go ahead and put your question in the chat for Danny to read to Dr. Rao. And I see that Nancy has a question, and so she will be able to turn on her camera in a minute. And yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm always so blown away by kind of like the poetry of how you state it. It's almost like an artistic design that meshes so perfectly and powerfully and positively. I just want to get a sense of your reaction to how witnessing what's happening in the world in terms of Gaza and deportations,
Mhm.
um, how that might further inspire us to work even harder or more intelligently than we already are. I do it every day,
Yeah.
and I cry and I weep and I rage, and I'm fearful, but I'm also, as you recommend, staying extremely positive and visualizing Planet B.
Yeah, thank you. That's to me, that's the only way out. It's being positive and visualizing where we need to be. That this is a symbol that the planet A system does not have any answers for the problems it's facing. Okay, this is why you see all these craziness on planet A. You see, open genocide. I mean, it's just disgusting, right? Open genocide. But the slaughterhouses have been open for a long time too. So the animals have been facing that for thousands of years, right? So now it's being done openly to human beings. In Previously, they used to just starve people to death slowly, right? So it was also happening, and a lot of people are dying of chronic diseases too. In fact, the carnage among the rich is greater than the carnage among the poor. I think of it as dropping Hiroshima bombs, because people tend to pay attention when it's a point source disaster like that. So I say that starvation or hunger is like dropping a Hiroshima bomb on the human family once every week. 9 million people are dying of hunger every year. That's one a week. Okay. But chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, their toll is like dropping Hiroshima bomb on the human family once every 2 days. Okay. It's greater. And it's those who are eating these animal foods, these rich foods, who are dying of these chronic diseases, who are causing the hunger at the other side. So it's like we are just locked in a system that's that's I mean clearly cannot solve our problems. It's designed for the wrong objective functions. It's designed for just accumulation of power. And I say you have accumulated enough power now that you know that you're changing the life support systems of the planet. So there's no need to accumulate even more power in the hands of fewer and fewer people, which is what the system is doing. So we have to now figure out how to deploy that power with kindness and compassion for the right purpose, with the right objective function, with the right goals. And so I say that that system is done for. It's no longer useful. It served its purpose, but now we have to move on because uh, the animals are suffering way more than us in the sense that the we are dropping a Hiroshima bomb on the animal kingdom one every 6 seconds. Okay, that's the carnage that they're facing in order for us to continue this system on planet A. So it's obviously it's done for. It's over. Don't even bother trying to fix it. It cannot be fixed. You have to start over and build something new that works for all of us.
Can I make a
Yeah.
little comment? I love what you said, and I am totally so much in accord with it. Um, my tactic, not strategy, is to listen to, let's say, Democracy Now, alternative news,
Mhm.
and then email one or two, maybe once every 2 or 3 days, the participants who have no idea and just, hey, catastrophic climate crisis can be stopped and actually reversed with enough people going on a plant-based diet. And I use AI and I lay out all the reasons you give and try to give resources. But it's kind of like shaking the people on planet A in the old system. Hey, wake up, because the house is on fire.
Yeah.
We all need to transform to plant-based vegan. Oh, and one more thing about wars are all usually over stealing other people's land and resources. And
Yeah.
I think that animal agriculture is the number one, I don't call it user, I call it waster of land and resources. So I just
Yeah.
wait people make the connection. Thank you.
It's also about giving up this idea that you own land. We don't own land, we don't own anything. So you have basically custodians of land or custodians uh, of the resources. And we have to deploy that as wise custodians for the right purpose and know that you belong. So when people say this is mine, it's a sign of fear that maybe the community will not support us. Okay, it's that kind of fear mentality that makes us say, grab ownership of things. So uh, when you know that you belong and you know that you're supported, you let go. You don't need to own anything.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Silas. Okay, I think Danny, do you have a question from the chat? Let's bring Danny up and let her read that question.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if you can see me. There we go. This is a question from Brittany Bunk. Instead of dying out of what's unwanted, since nothing really dies, wouldn't the rhetoric could be about resting because it is there, but we just choose not to do what's available to us?
Yeah, I mean, she's right. Brittany's right. It's not hospice workers are the ones who help old systems transition from its usefulness on planet A to something that's useful on planet B, and deploy your skills accordingly. People who are farmers, they can farm anything. I mean, because it's basically being, understanding nature and being custodians of nature. That's what farmers are. So rather than farming animals, you can farm mushrooms or plants. Okay. So they're called hospice workers because the old model, it's no longer useful in the new.
Great. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. That's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Brittany, for that question. You're muted, Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience with me and with the system that we have, and we appreciate you putting questions in the chat and raising your hand. Dr. Rao, I have a question for you about the practicality of switching from planet A to planet B. Many of us have the vision of a kind world where everybody shares and is nice and kind, and I think we have some ideas about what we can do. We can be kind when we meet somebody on the street who doesn't have food, but when we know that there are relatives in trouble around the world, or that sort of, those kind of things that are going on, do you have some practical tips? And I look to you to see what you do, and others too, but what do you recommend for practical tips?
Yeah, it's a first of all, Planet B is a mindset. Okay? It's a mindset of seeing the world from that upside down perspective. Okay, and so there is a lot of suffering you will see when you have that mindset. You will see a lot of suffering, and you will then discover, where do I put my resources? What is the best way to use my resources to alleviate that suffering? Okay, and I normally uh, I fall back on the advice from the Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, where he says, okay, first you'll consider what is your skill? How can you deploy your resources, whatever you have? So, what is the right thing to do from your own perspective? So, that's what's known as Swadharma. Okay? So, that's the self dharma, Swadharma. And then you consider what is the right thing to do for my family, because you have family constraints. And it also depends upon how broadly you define your family to be. Okay? And you begin to see, what's the best thing to do from your family's perspective. Then you look at what is the best thing to do based on the current situation. So it's called Yuga Dharma. So that's Swadharma, there is Kula Dharma, which is family, and then Yuga Dharma, which is what is the right thing to do based on the era that we are in, where we are experiencing climate change and biodiversity loss and all that. Okay? And finally, it's what is the right thing to do based on love and compassion. And so that's the Sanatana Dharma. That's the Dharma that doesn't change. It's always based on kindness and compassion. And then you choose. And in the Gita, it says that um, it, a choice that you make based on these four considerations is always superior to a choice that you hear from someone else. So, because we each have our own right path to take. There is no one right path.
Yeah, I sometimes notice that I want somebody else's path to be like mine, and it's,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that I don't say something or act and say, "Hey, I'm wondering, is your path similar to mine?" And let them think. But I don't need to. Yeah, I don't need to hope that their path is mine. It's different. Wonderful. I see we have another question. Thank you so much, Silas.
Yeah.
Hello, Tammy. Welcome. What's your
Good morning.
question?
Good morning. Sailesh, can you share a little bit about how the dismantling of the dairy industry and bringing awareness to the compassion of mother and their offspring, how that will be maybe the tipping point, the game changer?
Yeah. That is the key. Dairy is the key for allowing planet A to basically crumble gracefully. Because dairy to me is the original deception. It's so deeply rooted in all these cultures. Even though dairy is, logically speaking, not good food. It is the lactation secretions of a mammal mother who's 5 times her size, which is designed to make her body grow, a body grow from calf to cow in 18 months, whereas we grow from baby to adult in 18 years. So it's a fluid that's designed to make our body grow, 50 to 60 times faster than it ever needs to grow. But like anything, if you take it in small quantities, it could be used as medicine, but it's definitely not a food, right? So the original use, I believe, of dairy products was as medicine, not as food. But it became food when people were desperate and they had to survive. And now we are not desperate anymore. We have plenty of food on the planet. We are extracting 6 times as much food as we really need from the planet. So there's absolutely no need for us to consume dairy, and all the suffering that we inflict on mothers and their children in the dairy industry is completely unnecessary. So when people realize that, when they wake up out of the stupor that the dairy industry has, you know, they mesmerize you into thinking that it's necessary food, and they teach you in schools that you have to drink it, and the government is in on it. The entire planet A is based on promoting dairy consumption to children. Okay, and it's not good for our children. And so our mothers have to realize that our children are being conscripted into a zombie-like state to come into planet A. So we might as well be drinking that cat's milk. Right? It just makes no sense to be drinking cow's milk, right? So once people realize that, this whole thing will crumble. So this is why I'm really excited about the International Calf and Cow Mother's Day idea, because it's about highlighting that particular bond that's being severed in planet A that needs to be considered as sacred on planet B. The mother to child bond is a sacred relationship that we need to nurture for all species, not just for cows and their babies, for pigs and their piglets. I mean, for all species, we have to consider that bond to be sacred, and that we shouldn't be violating that bond, and we shouldn't be impregnating these animals. I mean, there are so many things we do on planet A that I consider to be like beyond the pale. If I had known, I would never have participated in it when I was younger. you know, I was just, um, I was just walking as if I was in a trance and participating in all this.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, do we have any more questions in the chat? All right, any more? Okay, let's see. How about the Berkana two-loop model?
Right.
I saw that little ladder over there. Put on there. We want to get there. Are you saying that there's really not one plan because we have to start with each of us where we are,
Right.
but we have to speak the truth?
Hmm.
But we can't just sit there. I mean, I'm remembering a movie where a woman just onlooked as somebody was working in the fields and then was beaten, and she didn't say anything. We can't be silent.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's again, it always comes down to those four questions you have to ask. What is the right thing to do for myself? What's the right thing to do for my family?
Mhm.
For the age we're in, and from point of view of kindness and compassion, and then act based on your choice. So don't be afraid to act based on your choice,
Mhm.
and then you have to let go of the fruits of your action and repeat. So it's a constant process of correcting ourselves and repeating this. Um, and you'll stumble along the way sometimes, but you get up and you do it again. So don't ever give up. So that's one thing I have. I persist in my objectives. So,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
he
So I'm
persists, she persists,
yeah,
and Nancy and many of us will talk to people individually and try to open a little door there.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that may be the right thing to do for you at that time. To help people see, because you see their suffering,
Mhm.
and you see that they have been misled, right? But then again, you always have to be open to the possibility that you may have been misled too on some things. So that's where the humility comes in, and honesty comes in. Yeah. Because one thing I tell my engineers anytime I work on an engineering project is, just when you find out you made a mistake, just admit it and let's fix the problem and move on.
Mhm.
As opposed to hiding it, because it only makes things worse when you hide it.
Right.
Right.
And it also helps to start a conversation with, this is what I know so far, if you know
Right.
something different, instead of, look, this is the way it is.
Right. Yeah. So I also begin with the assumption that everyone is trying to do the best that they can. Right. I don't. I don't assume ulterior motives and things like that. I assume that they're trying to do the right thing, but they have been misled.
Yes.
So I see that, from a systems perspective, I see that most of the problems you're facing are through the sin of omission, not through the sin of commission. So people just didn't see some aspects of the problem, or some aspects of the data. And they're just looking at some narrow aspect of the data and they're reaching conclusions based on that. Yeah. So, and that's how we get misled. So I see that in the IPCC's reports as well. I see that in the protein myth or the calcium myth. These are all myths. Basically, it's a sin of omission. You just forgot to tell people that there's protein in everything or there's calcium in everything. Right?
Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
All
problem.
right. Thank you so much. We have a question from Brittany, but we have 1 minute left, so let's hear it. And then Dr. Mal, see.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Danny.
Hi, Brittany asks, how do we decide how to go forth cohesively in the same direction if we all have different ideas to get to the same vision of Planet B, to where it leads to conflict that gets nowhere before we can even get there?
Yeah, so obviously there are going to be conflicts. It's not that we will have no conflicts in our. It's not like we all have the key, that someone has a key to understanding everything. So there are going to be conflicts, and we have to figure out how to resolve those and come to an amicable conclusion that we can all press forward with. And usually, when you start with the right values of honesty and humility, and then health, happiness, and harmony, that you will figure out how to resolve those conflicts. It's going to be on a case by case basis. There's no set answer. But we have to put some processes in place to address that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was wonderful. And thank you for all the questions that came in. We appreciate it. And now we'll bring up our next speaker. Hello. Welcome. Let's see if I can hear you okay.
Yes, I hope you can hear me clear.
Yes,
You
very
can?
good. Okay.
Good.
And so I'm going to introduce you and then you'll begin. All right. Let's see. Do you have any, do you need any setup or anything? Or are you ready to go?
I have slides that I'd like to operate from here.
Okay. And would you like to speak first and then open your slides, or do you want them open now? And
I can open them now, actually.
okay.
Are you able to see this?
Not yet.
Oh, 1 second. I need to first share data, yes. Send the files.
I think Dr. Prabodh is not a co-host. Okay.
If I do this, are you able to see my main slide?
Well, we see your notes
All
and
right.
the slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me move that. Okay.
There.
Are you able to see the slides now?
Yes, that's
Good,
great.
good. That's
Okay.
good.
Okay, so now
That's
I'm going to
good.
introduce you. Wait, great. Okay.
Sure.
Let's see here. Welcome, everyone, to the 22nd Vegan Convergence of the Peoples, Thriving on Planet B. I'm Rebecca Allen, and I am honored to introduce to you Dr. Prabhat Mistry. He's a qualified biochemical engineer with a PhD from Imperial College London. His experience covers policy, research, strategy development, and consultancy, and has worked for organizations in China, India, Europe, as well as the United Kingdom, dealing with R&D programs in energy and environment. His talk is the moral imperative given the climate crisis. Welcome, Dr. Mistry.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. So, what I will cover are key elements of science of spirituality, but also related practical actions that we can undertake to achieve or acquire Planet B. So that's what I'm going to cover. I have some 27 slides or so, but I'm going to go through them fairly quickly and leave enough time for questions and answers. I will also share the slide pack with you straight after the presentation. So if you miss anything, you're most welcome to then download the slides and keep them. So that's something I will do, and I will use my laser pointer to point out certain key things. So let's start. Now, my talk is mainly around self-transformation. Something that Sailesh mentioned as Swadharma. So that's what I will focus on. But also, first of all, I also want to thank you, Rebecca, Sailesh, Tammy, and so on for giving this platform and inviting me to speak. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to take the values perspective to talk about the moral imperative. And the prime value that I will focus on is love. Now, love is the most important quality we all possess. And what I want to do is start with a quote from my own teacher of values, teacher of values and spirituality, Sri Satya Sai Baba. And I have actually gained a great deal of insight into spirituality from him. So I want to start with a quote of his. And that says that the individual I believes it is limited, but that is an illusion. It is the same universal spirit imagining itself to be limited. This awareness can come to you either through a flash of intellectual analysis or a flash of universal love. The awareness is an act of identification which requires love. Love is God. Love is the means and end. That is why there are no atheists, for there is no being without love of some kind or other. I won't read the rest of the quote, but it'll be there for you to read later if you like. But as you can see, if you believe in love, you believe in God. That is the key message here. And for all of us, love is the means and end. And as it said, there are no atheists. We're all believers. And we are all embodiments of love. Now, in June 2024, I attended the Climate Reality Conference in Rome. It was in June 2024, and I've taken some slides from there, as well as I've taken some slides from from Dr. Sailesh Rao's presentations as well. Something which I will use just to set the scene, but then move on to talking about values. So this slide shows that we are all connected, and how we impact on the environment is clear to see because there is only one overall global environment. When we look up at the sky, it appears limitless. But it is the thin layer of atmosphere that covers the troposphere and stratosphere surrounding the planet that is the new cause of our concern, the climate crisis, as we know it. And it's so thin and so sensitive that we need to address it. Most of us, if not all of us, know Sir David Attenborough. He is a presenter, biologist, and natural historian. And he has recently said that nature once determined how we survive, but now we determine how nature survives. And so I believe that if you are looking to get your teeth into something and make something of your life, then you were born at the right time and right place, because we have things to do. You will have seen this slide too in other contexts, but this represents global surface temperature. And as you can see, it has a basis here, which was around about 1980. And since then, the temperatures have been going up and down, but ever since 1950s and certainly after 1980s, the temperatures have been rising. And you can see that some of the hottest years on record are the recent years. You will have seen this depiction too. And what this shows is the land use data taken from the UN Special Report on Climate Change and Land Use 2019. And the key things to point out are how this is a form of depiction which shows the proportion of land used for different categories of land use. And so there is so much timberland, so much desert, so much plant foods. Plant foods covers very small area, but it provides 85% of our food needs. Animal foods or animal agriculture covers a very large area of land, but provides only 12% of the food we have. If we look at humans' direct food consumption, then clearly the large proportion is already taken care of. But it's the last 15%, the 3% of seafood and 12% that comes from animal agriculture, that is actually causing the climate change that we are talking about. So the challenge of replacing 15% of our food doesn't seem huge, but we are struggling with it. And I think that's why we need to focus on things that I'm going to come on to. What is the moral imperative? I feel that the prime cause of this is the decline of our values. That is at the center of exploitation that causes environmental depletion for humans and all life to thrive on this planet. You have already seen in Sailesh's presentation previously various forms of depictions where we are showing Earth's planetary boundaries. And as this reference shows, and he also presented just a few minutes earlier, is that 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries have already been exceeded. I won't spend a great deal of time on that because much has been said. So we now know why we should act, and it's clear. But there are also other reasons why we should act. As I said earlier, we couldn't have been born at a better time and place to make something of our life, to lead a life of purpose and meaning. It requires the journey to start from sealing on desires, something I will come on to in the next slide. And it ends in sage or stoicism or sainthood, or what I like to call human excellence. We are all born with inherent inclination towards good and righteousness. And this actually comes from one of the Quranic verses, which is actually depicted in many other religions too, that values are basically inherent in us, and we simply need to bring them out into the open for them to shine. And what I'd like to say is that wherever possible, we should focus more on values-based spirituality than religions. I'm not against religions, but sometimes religions become the point of differentiation and also division. And so this particular depiction really clarifies it. Religions tend to become rather fixed in their ideas, whereas spirituality, values-based spirituality, is something which we can interpret as we have different challenges from time to time. So that's why we should act and how we should act. I said I will say something about sealing on desires. I think this is actually the primary step that we should all consider or will have considered. And it's a practical and spiritual initiative that was started by Sri Sathya Sai Baba in the 1980s. And certainly in the UK, I was one of many who played key parts in actually implementing these through various community centers. It is about cutting waste in energy, food, money, and time, and putting any savings towards helping others. Now, this is actually quite important because serving others is very, very important. In fact, it's the only means by which you can demonstrate selfless love, especially if it is without ego or attachment. And so I wanted to focus partly on that, and I will say something else a little later about this. This is a poster that was designed for Prashanti Nilayam. It's an ashram in India where Sri Sathya Sai Baba used to reside. And as a consultant, I had got together with several other consultants to provide some waste management related consultancy and also implementation of various projects there. And this poster was designed on the back of a poster competition that we had organized in 1995 in the UK. And the depiction, which you will also see behind me, which is where the original is, and here is a copy on this particular slide. It's something that was compiled by an artist called Sarah McNern when we gave her all the winning entries, and we said, could you please take out some of the gems of the, from the posters that were entered by the children. And she came up with this beautiful poster, which is what is presented here. Similarly, we could organize Vegan World's poster competition, for instance, or poem competition, or play competition, or public speaking competitions, and saying, again, something I will mention under projects that I will cover later. when dealing with people of other organizations, something that was also alluded to earlier in Q&A earlier, is dealing with people with different views. So when we deal with people of other organizations and views, we need to bear in mind some of these things, which I have taken from this book called The Ideological Brain by Leo Zmigrod. And it says that our brains can absorb a wide range of information to become predictive organs. You know, that's how intuition works. So our brains absorb a great deal of information and become intuitive models, basically. Some brains are attracted to extreme ideologies and doctrines, but we need to avoid those extreme doctrines and or rigid ideologies. So we need to avoid these, but work with people who have greater degree of ideological flexibility and greater degree of cognitive flexibility. And the good news is that when working with other groups, there will always be a large section of cognitively flexible people who will be willing to listen, understand, and possibly change. So what we should focus on, as climate healers do, and I know that Sailesh does as well in particular, to present facts, solutions, and pathways towards veganism. And so what this chart depicts is something like 65 to 70% of people you will find in that green zone who will be flexible, who will be able to listen to the arguments and adopt ways. I think the limitation so far may have been that we may not have got to the right number of people to give out the message of our climate crisis on planet A. But something else I also wanted to mention here is that we should be gentle and loving and not be too forceful when giving out the message of veganism. We should remember our own journey to it as well. And mine is fairly recent, 1.5 years, for instance. So, like me, some of you may also be Johnny come lately, and I think we should bear that in mind. Now, our brain acts as an antenna for discerning cosmic reality and spirituality. And there are always two traits that we have to deal with: gross versus subtle, mass versus energy, manifest versus unmanifest. And similarly, these two sides of the brain, which is the rational side and the emotional side. On the left, we have rational side, which is governed by truth. And on the right, we have the emotional side, which is governed by love. And I want to say something about those two core values. You know, these are the two core values, in my opinion, which actually drive our all other values, which manifest as related values, in my opinion. And so I have given these definitions of the two core values. So love, in its purest form, it's unconditional. And it's the foremost quality of human being and essential mark of humanness. It's a universal force that seems to be wired into all living things. Should not depend on what you get back in return. And so this is a definition of love, because we can then categorize different forms of love that we may come across. And this is what this Swadharma model that I will just talk about goes into. Then on the rational side, we have the value of truth. And here I have defined what is absolute truth: that which does not change or ceases to be. is limitless, unconditioned, and unapproachable. And it's difficult to comprehend, but science aids the quest for truth. The self-values model has been depicted in these two videos. And I would like my Nikita to actually share these two links on the chat, just so that you have access to them as well. So these two videos are for teachers and research teams. First one is called The Power of Values, and it's about 6 minutes long, and it talks about how to represent values and analyze values. So it's what teachers have really graphed really well, and they like the approach that I have depicted there. So if you are in teaching or in teaching values or spirituality, do please look at that. The second video is called The Digital Ethics, and it's about 8 minutes long, and it looks at various applications and also goes into how we measure values alignment at 3 levels that we operate at, which are knowledge level, thought level, and action level. And what I have done in this particular video are included elements of Bhagavad Gita in terms of Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. So, knowledge, Bhakti, which is devotion, and action yoga. So do please look at that. I will not be saying much more about this than just in the next 3 slides depict how we use representation of values using, let's say, the value of justice, for instance. So this is not the core value. This value of justice depends on context and also circumstances and also one's own perspective. So justice ideal I have put here. So a law court judge might actually consider values at this particular point where high degree of love and high degree of truth are applied. But if we look at justice from victim's perspective, then the victim may apply a degree of truth, but with a degree of vengeance, perhaps. I'm not saying that they will always, but they could. And so justice might mean different thing to the victim. But what about the perpetrator? Well, the perpetrator will seek sympathy with a degree of perhaps untruth. And so I've placed it here. These are all relative positions that we can actually judge based on what we see. So I'm just showing you how we can represent justice based on our different context. And there is no hard and fast way of presenting this. But when we come to AI technology and sentiment analysis, this is how we can actually differentiate between different contexts of the word applied as justice. Let's look at trust. We trust our mother because we have implicit love and we believe what she says. Our love in God or trust in God may be better or worse, depending on our experience of mother. These are all relative positions, but I think that trust in God may be roundabout here. Trusting a teacher may be somewhat lesser than mother, because remember, this is the diagonal. The more further away you are in this corner, the better it is. So you can see we trust a teacher, but not as much as the mother. Trust in a bus driver. Well, the trust will only come when we see the bus driver with the right uniform, behind the wheel, with the right attitude, with a great deal of good driving and so on. And then we will begin to have trust in the driver. What about the doctor? Your medical doctor, for instance. Well, again, it's his or her where he is, how the practice is conducted, and so on. So we pick up on lots of visual as well as subtle signals before we begin to trust. What about a salesman or salesperson, I should say? We do have, they will have a degree of truth in what they say, but as far as our attitude to the salesperson is concerned, especially if we are being sold something forcefully, then we may trust them, but we may not like them as much. What about trust in politicians? We have often elected them, certainly in democracies, so we may have some regard for them until they start to function and operate as government or as you know politicians, presidents, prime ministers, or dictators. So I have actually put that with a degree of love, but there may be a degree of untruth there as well. Again, these are indicative positions that shows how the model can be used. And what about a sneaky intruder? Clearly, you wouldn't like them, and they will be working under deception. So certainly we will put them there. Plotting values to understand their meaning. So these are different values that I have depicted. Sympathy. Sympathy is when you're saying, oh, I feel for you. Empathy, on the other hand, is when you try and understand the predicament of the person you're referring to. So it is placed higher up on the truth scale. Pity is, I feel sorry for you, and we're not judging whether the person is right or wrong in what they may or may not have done or their condition, but we feel love towards them. Compassion. Well, this is the highest quality, and it really says that I'm here for you, come what may. Now, this is something I have taken from the second video, which is called the digital ethics. And I would suggest that that video will probably give you more than what I'm just going to mention here, which is basically that we have forms of behavior, enlightened selfishness, as Bertrand Russell depicted and showed what it means, or ignorant selfishness, or core selfishness. But we need to, as I said earlier, move towards this particular direction, and that's where spirituality lies. But there are also some gray areas, as I have marked here. Again, I will not go into that other than to say that when steadfast adherence to truth may act against love. And here I've said when white lies might be acceptable provided they're well-intentioned. But we need to be in this particular region. And this is the golden diagonal. And this is the goal, the self-transformation that we were talking about, the swadharma, or our destination, which we can also describe as sage or saintliness is here. But one thing I want to point out are the stages that we may go through in order to get there. So here, it may be one's own parents or mother who will guide them out of the selfishness and towards this enlightened selfishness. Second, maybe teacher. All teachers at school will actually help you to understand the world around you and how to behave. Then comes religions and the texts that may exist. But I have put one's own philosophical inquiry and really guidance from a close teacher as higher than religion. Because I think that is where the real development comes from before one is able to acquire that excellence. So this is really about here and now, how to acquire that state, which we call human excellence, rather than hereafter. Now, we all come across AI technology and machine learning a great deal. Machine learning is based on algorithms that learn from data without relying on rules-based programming. But this is not the answer, in my opinion, for the future, because if the data and behavior has been wrong on which you're making the machine learning, then that answer is going to be flawed too. So what I suggest is that future excellence need to be based on values and values-based ethics. We are at a critical juncture in our humanity. ChatGPT, based on past data and experience, cannot make a good guide for the future. So we need to define values-based morality. And this is where the model comes in. So please do look at the two videos if you're interested. But also, if anyone is interested in applying it, this is an open source material. So please feel free to go into that. And it's really about using mathematical programming of ethics to aid decisions. So what does this mean in terms of the imperative for the individual? Self-development is important. So intellectually, we need to gain knowledge by reading, writing, and inquiring, developing our thoughts or mental capacity by meditation, silent sitting, self-inquiry, cognitive flexibility, and so on. We also need to watch our actions. So we need to make sure that they are integrated with values, sealing on desires, self-discipline, and charity. We also need to engage in advocacy. Remember, I'm talking about us as individuals. So engage in advocacy, campaigning, dialogue and debate, projects, something that I'm really focused on in my career as well as in community as well. And I can say so much more about projects that we could undertake. Sacrificing one's own resource to take the vegan world message outwards. And we should not stop giving meaning to our life. So this is the moral imperative for the individual. But what about for the climate healers as a group? Climate Healers is already a unique body, providing thought leadership with evidence, professionalism, and passion, inspires and trains people around the world. And this is where Sailesh and his groups really show a clear leadership, and that is really welcome. I just hope that more and more people come across them. Further suggestions I have are to avoid high dependence on few people and burnout. Because we are fragile human beings, so we need to share the workload. We need to develop young people. We also need to reach out with short-term projects. Again, projects come into my suggestions in different geographical areas. For instance, Sailesh was in London earlier in the month, and our colleague Krishna Gandhi, who will be speaking tomorrow, arranged for Sailesh to go into a number of schools, secondary schools, so speaking to teenagers, and that has had a great outcome. Very positive feedback from the schools that he visited. We also need to consider and support community interest businesses. Again, we can go into that as required. So veganism, I'm on my last two slides and I will stop. It's basically a journey from planet A as we know it. And we need to design our systems that will work in parallel, as was mentioned earlier. And really, we need to show that we are moving. And when we are really moving, it's a bit like a train. Nobody gets on the train unless the train starts to move. And as you can see, this train is definitely moving because everyone is there, hanging on to it to go places. So Planet B is really about acting with love to leave no one behind. Human excellence of few will bring all on board to reach values. To reach the Planet B. And so this is the moral imperative that I wanted to give. It's love in action, and it's the mindset that we all need to adopt in order to get there. So with that, I will stop the presentation and answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. And if people will raise their hands or type their questions in the chat. I also wanted to let you know, Dr. Mystery, that we can put a link to those slides on the Vegan Superhero Trello board with your biography, so they'll see it there. So that will be available for anybody who goes to the Trello board. And thank you so much for that. We'll also post them in the chat if you don't, so that's fine. And I see we do have a question from Dakota, and in a moment he will be able to turn on his camera and then he will be unmuted. All right, can you turn on your camera, Dakota? We only do cameras for, we only do videos with the videos on. Yeah.
It says I cannot start my video because the host has disabled.
Okay, let's see. Our tech people will take care of that. Okay, try it now.
It's still giving me the message. Cannot start your video.
Okay, try it now.
Nope.
Well, I keep, well, we'll wait for the tech team to turn on the start video.
It is turned on. There we go.
Everybody, thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. Mystery and Dr. Rao and Julie. Everything's been so great so far. I was just loving your idea about love being one of the best or the principles for living our movement. But I wondered, along the lines of truth and sometimes making people uncomfortable, do you feel like it's a loving thing to do or maybe at what point do you share enough truth that could make people uncomfortable, or at what point does it become maybe, like too much? Or I sometimes struggle with where to draw the line with how much I share, and I do believe that truth is good, and my love for the planet and others makes me want to share the truth. And then I also see that sometimes the amount I share causes pain, and I don't know sometimes where to stop. I just wondered if you had thoughts on that.
Yes, very good question, and nice to meet you again, Dakota. We've exchanged some messages privately as well. So, yeah, do you know, truth should always be delivered with a high degree of love, because there are certain truths which may become rather vindictive, and the person receiving it may not like it so much. And there is so much truth that we can share about, what we should do for planet B and so on. And this is why I say, remember our own journey. I have been a consultant, environmental consultant and engineer for many, many years. But why has it taken me so long to have come across Sailesh's work only about a year and a half ago to become vegan? I knew what was going on, yet I didn't imbibe that fully. So I think we all have to bear in mind that it's not an instant decision for most people. And the way we are, we don't like to hear things which we are unlikely to adopt. We have that kind of mental capacity to blank it out. So, there's a lot of truth and untruth going around. Climate deniers are there to say, oh, well, it's not what other people are saying, for instance. So it becomes an easy step to take to say, oh, yeah, but there are doubts. I will take my time in making decisions. But I think whenever we convey facts, figures, and solutions, we must be mindful of their position and also know that it will be a slow process. In some cases, it will be instant. For me, it was quite instant. But once I decided, it was instant. So, but by the way, my journey hasn't completed because I'm still hanging on to some of the, I have still a pair of shoes which are leather. I still have a belt that is leather. Now, I have actually thought very seriously about that and think, if I discard it, that becomes waste, that has an environmental impact, and I will have to draw another resource. So let me, be as much vegan as possible, but not completely. Thereby, I will understand those coming on board better, in my opinion. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Dakota.
Thank you, Dakota. Thank you, Dr. Mistry. We do have some questions on the chat. I don't see a camera on, but as soon as
Yes, I have a question from Michael direct to me, which says, how do you identify the people who have a higher degree of cognitive flexibility and ideological flexibility? What are the telltale signs, I guess? Very good question. Um, you know, I gave you that graphical plot to show that in a group, you will always get a large number of people who are cognitively flexible. There will always be those who are perhaps more vocal at the extreme ends. And I think we need to acknowledge those, but not necessarily be bogged down by them. And we can't tell whether an individual is, cognitively flexible or inflexible. We just have to deal with all people and move on. I hope that answers the question.
yes, and I believe, I don't know if we still have another question in the chat or if that was the same one.
Hi, and yes, it looks like that was the same question, so you got it directly, and I thank you very much for taking that and your presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, I see Dr. Rao, come on up. Allison will spotlight you. There you go.
Yeah, I noticed that you rated the guru or the teacher almost the highest among all, right, as to who you should be listening to. Can you sort of speak to that?
Sure.
Why it was that way? Yeah.
Yes. When we look at lives of Buddha, and Christ, I don't feel their full understanding has been captured into Buddhism or Christianity.
Mm.
Likewise, Mahatma Gandhi, I don't think we fully understood what he stood for. He was a religious reformer, values oriented. And I have put the Krishna's dialogue, Arjun's dialogue with Krishna as the uppermost, but in order to take you to that final stage of what I have called human excellence, because I think it's all about experience, but also how we advance ourselves. Spirituality, just like love is endless, spirituality is endless. The more you go into it, it's all about going inwards. The more you go into it, the more there is to go into. And I think these are the things which are the realms of spirituality that we can't explain so easily. And this is why I feel there is a difference between Jesus Christ and Christianity. The values that don't all match. I have actually felt that there is very little difference between Buddha and Christ and Mahatma Gandhi. Yet we take their paths so differently because they have been written down. This is why I have put the religious text lower down in my priority order, because they have become fixed. It's fixed story. Values are like grammar in it's a bit like grammar in a sentence. If you don't have the right grammar, you're not going to make sense. And if you don't have the values embedded in you as well as into everything you do, then the outcome isn't going to be there. And that's why I actually put the order as parents, teachers, religious texts, philosophies, teachers, gurus or teachers, and that's what's going to lead you beyond them into your own state, which is the human excellence. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is that the teacher has the flexibility to change with the times, whereas texts are fixed in that sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very much so. Very much
got
so.
it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Rao, it also, doesn't it, both of you, doesn't it also depend on the teacher? Because we have some, not so good teachers out there, or we have some evangelists also.
Yes. Just one more thing I would say, not to flatter Sailesh, but you see, the trust is about understanding a teacher. And once you have that understanding, of what they're teaching and what their capacity is, you tend to have greater trust. You have faith, therefore. Now, blind faith is always bad, but a faith that has been developed as a result of questioning is always lasting, longer lasting. This is why, I must say, I have questioned Sri Satya Sai Baba to nth degree. I had few opportunities in person, but the rest has been in his writing. And that's what actually inspires me to lead a life that I do, of values, practice of values as much as I can. We are not all perfect. We cannot all be non-violent in every possible actions, because even the action, the value of non-violence, the more you go into it, the more you realize there is more to do.
Right.
Even plants we have to kill in order to eat. That's violence, but that's a form of violence that is not kind of detrimental in a wider sense. So we need to be philosophical, but also applying values to the best of our ability as possible. And that's our own moral imperative before we can help others.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Are there any more questions in the chat? Would anybody like to make a comment on that? I loved your slides. I think they emphasized what you were saying, seeing the truth. What kind of graph is that with the 4 quadrants? That was wonderful. And the trust. I think it was helpful. So thank you very much for the slides.
Thank you.
I've posted them on the Trello board already, the link to that, yeah, slides.
Wonderful. Okay, we have more time, so if anybody else has any comments, we'll take comments as well as questions. We have plenty of time. Hello.
I had a wonderful time with Tammy Pay the other day through the interview.
Oh, wonderful.
It's not something I have been experienced in, but Tammy was great.
Wonderful. Okay, we do have another question and comment. So come on up, Dakota, and then Tammy.
Mine's just a comment. Always have lots of comments. I just wanted to say, in response to this last question conversation, I do wish to flatter Dr. Rao and Dr. Mystery and all my climate healer fellows. You all are my greatest teachers. I love it. It's been a great day so far. I can't wait till the rest.
Thank you, Dakota.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And Tammy.
Hi, Tammy.
Hello, hello. Thank you again for your presentation. You know, after interviewing you and then this the second time, it's funny how things, you know, move in deeper into the field. And I was thinking about you talking about love is infinite. And I'm wondering, you know, what it made me think of is the connection between love and trust. And how even trusting the universal unfolding, like even trusting that whatever happens will still be okay, but moving towards what's right, moving towards the loving action. Could you speak a little bit on that, the connection between as we deepen our trust, our love, and more like not just with another human, but in our even our beingness, our reason for being here, our dharma, maybe.
Yes, yes. You know, self-love is very, very important, as long as it's not egoistic or attaching in some way. But we have to love ourselves to improve ourselves. You know, if we love ourselves, we actually focus on things that matter in our own life, which is, you know, I gave a quote about love is God. So what is God? God is ultimately the reality. You know, it's not a person, it's a force. That's what we need to tap into. And unless we have love, we cannot explore the world or ourselves. And love drives every little actions. Our, you know, love drives trust in people. You know, it's through our interaction. And when we kind of to and fro with love, that is when the trust really grows. And that is why I said that mother's love, you know, is implicit. You know, a child doesn't question that. And in that environment, you know, a child learns to lie first before telling the truth. But when the child learns in the environment of the home and in the mother's presence that, you know, some things are not right, and mother, you know, when they realize that what they're saying doesn't fit into the overall picture and gets a little punishment with love, that's when they learn to tell the truth more than lies. And this is why I put mother at the center of that starting phase to go towards that human excellence. Human excellence, you know, you could call it going towards God or heaven or whatever you want to call it. But I'm talking about the heaven that is here and now. We can create that with love in our actions.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you, Tammy, for coming on and bringing that up. Thank you so much, Dr. Mystery. This has been wonderful. We really enjoyed it. Thank you. And our next speaker is here, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So I see Samantha come on screen, and we'll make sure
Hello.
screen. Hello, hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you fine. So that's great. Do you need to practice slides or anything, or shall I go ahead? Wait, I'm hearing some background noise.
Yes, I hope it's not too loud. So I am actually dialing in from Zanzibar in Tanzania, where there's pretty spotty Wi-Fi, and the one place I found with good Wi-Fi has live music in the background. So I'm gonna do my best. Is it pretty loud, or should I?
We can hear you.
maybe
We can
turn-
hear you.
Okay, okay. Sorry
But
about
you
that.
that's me. I say I can hear you, and I think if I can, everybody else can, according to their volume. All right. And Dr. Rao has the slides, so let me do an introduction to you first, if that's all right, and then we'll begin. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Welcome to the 22nd Vegan Convergence of the People, Thriving on Planet B. I'm Rebecca Allen and honored to introduce to you Samantha Derrick. She's the founder and executive director of the Plant Futures Initiative. It's a nonprofit, academic course, and global student movement with a mission to accelerate the transition to a plant-centric food system through education, leadership development, and cultural change. Samantha holds a Master's of Public Health from UC Berkeley, where the seeds of Plant Futures were first planted. Plants for the Planet, empowering the next generation of climate food system leaders. Please welcome Samantha Derrick.
You're muted.
Is she co-host?
Yeah.
There we
Samantha.
go. It wasn't letting me unmute myself, but I think it worked now. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you for such a nice intro. I'm so excited and happy to be here, and thanks again for bearing with the background noise. I was worried earlier that I wasn't going to find Wi-Fi on the island, and I'm really glad I did because I've really been looking forward to this. Really excited to be here. I did have one question. I have a few short videos that I wanted to play throughout the presentation. I have them up on my screen. Is it possible for me to take over, play a YouTube video while I'm presenting, or what would be the best way to do that?
Yes,
And if it's not possible, that's okay too.
I think you can try it, right, Dr. Rao?
Yeah, you're welcome to try. Do you want me to share the Canva presentation, or are you willing to do that yourself?
You know what? I have it, so let me go ahead. I'm happy to do it myself, and if I have any issues, I will let you know, and I can
Okay,
take over.
sounds
But I
good.
should be able to do it. Give me just one moment here. Let me get it up on my. Oh, it says sharing is not turned on. The host isn't allowing sharing for this meeting. Is the message I'm seeing. Oh, I think you're muted. I can't hear you, but
I think they made you a co-host.
oh, okay. Now it seems to be working. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Okay. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Okay, amazing. All right. So with that, just rearranging things. I'll go ahead and get started. Is it okay to ask a few questions and get some answers in the chat as well while I'm presenting? I don't know if the attendees have access to the chat.
Yeah.
We have somebody who's taking
Amazing.
questions from the chat.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. All right. All right, well, thank you again for the introduction. Like I said, I'm so grateful, so happy to be here, and so excited about the work this organization is doing. When you all reached out, I was so honored and excited to dive deeper into what we are doing at Plant Futures. So As you all mentioned in the intro, I am the founder and executive director of Plant Futures, which is a global nonprofit that I started 5 years ago that's accelerating the transition to a plant-centered food system. I'm originally from Florida. I actually live in Mexico City right now, but I'm dialing in from Tanzania, Africa. I travel quite a bit, so I'm always all over the place. A few fun facts about myself. I love electronic music. I love traveling, and I've been vegan for 20 years. This is my 20-year vegan anniversary, so it's definitely a special time for me right now as well. And still think it's the best decision I've ever made in my life. And it's also just led me to doing this work at Plant Futures, which I will get into. And quick question for everyone else, because I'm so curious, where is everyone from? If you all want to drop it in the chat, I'd love to know where you all are dialing in from. I don't know if there's anyone here from Africa right now.
They can't drop it in the chat. I'm sorry, but we do have.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, they do. We do have people from Peru and India, and Scotland that I know of.
Amazing. No worries. No worries. I forgot. Yeah, I'm so used to the chat sometimes, but all good. All good. I'm excited to know that there's a global crowd here. And yeah, I'm also curious if any of you are possibly part of Plant Futures or have heard of Plant Futures. Feel free to reach out to me later too. But I'm so if you are familiar with Plant Futures, some of this might be repetitive, but I am going to get a little bit into the background story and more about what we do. Before doing that though, I just had a few questions for grounding. And the first question, I think it's just a question just to ask yourself and think about while we're having this conversation today. The first is imagining it's the year 2040, and what kind of food system do you envision in 2040? What kind of food system do you want to live in and surround yourself with? And really, really picture it, like what it looks like to go out and eat, what it looks like to go to grocery stores, go to the restaurants, to share meals with your friends and family, like really, really envision it and feel it. And once you have that in mind, ask yourself what role can I have in my life to get one step closer to that food system? Even if it's one shift, one tiny thing that I change in my day-to-day or in my work, whatever it is, just one way that I can help create that system. And then ask yourself, how can I design a life that supports that vision and supports a life that is in alignment, full alignment with that vision and what I want to see in the world? And then lastly, what role do you think young people and youth should play in shaping the future of our food? And I start with those because these are questions that my team and I reflect on quite a bit, because our work is focused on youth and education and mobilizing students specifically who are going to be the future leaders of our food system. We, as you all mentioned, I'm going to switch slides. We're equipping students to be the next generation of leaders for plant-centered food systems, and our mission is to accelerate the transition to a plant-centric food system at Plant Futures. Why plants? I would imagine that most everyone here watching probably is pretty familiar with this already, so I won't spend too much time on this. But plants, we do see plant-centered food systems as one of the most effective levers of change that we have for climate action, to transform the future of the planet, survival of humanity, treatment of animals, so many reasons. And this is something that is very, very often overlooked in the climate sector and education. And there's just very little information about plant-centered food systems, despite it being one of the strongest and most incredible solutions we have to a lot of the world's problems. And this is actually why Plant Futures started. So going into a little bit of my personal story and background, even before starting Plant Futures, as I mentioned earlier, I have been vegan most of my life. I became vegan when I was 12 years old. I learned about factory farming. I saw a video of a slaughterhouse, what was happening to animals, and I was absolutely devastated. I just could not believe what I was seeing. And that moment, I knew I would never eat animals again. I was like, I can't contribute to the system. This is awful. I remember going up to my parents and crying and saying, like, I can't believe this is happening. This can't be real. And they were very supportive. They're like, of course. I told them, like, I pretty much became vegan overnight, and my parents were a huge part of this journey with me. And it just completely changed my life. It opened my eyes to what was happening in food systems, what was happening in the world. And my life would never be the same after that. It really, really paved my path. And I really believe that it became my personal mission in life that day to get people to eat more plants. the more I discovered about plant-based eating, the more fascinated I was at just how transformational plant-based eating was for health, for climate, for animals, just for so many different reasons. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is the way we should all be eating. It was just like everything. I started making these connections, even though it started with animals. It really, from animals, it actually became very personal because it started opening I started learning more about my personal heritage and history tied to plant-based eating. My mom is Mexican. She's a Mexican immigrant in the US. She grew up in Mexico eating a largely plant-based diet. She lived in rural Mexico. They had access to like corn, beans, legumes, very simple foods, veggies, fruits. And when they immigrated to the US, my mom, her family, Mexican community adopted a very US fast food, Western animal centered diet that was absolutely devastating to the health of my family and the community. So many of my family members and community members suffered with diabetes, diet related chronic disease, and it was all pointing to the diet, to this standard American diet that was so full of processed junk food and animal products, just not at all reflective of how they ate in Mexico. And I started realizing, wow, actually Mexico's history and heritage is very tied to plant-based eating. And I started learning it and discovering that most of the world used to eat predominantly plant-centered diets before the industrialization, before colonization, before all these awful things happened in the food system. We were mostly eating plants. Sure, there was meat in the diet, but it wasn't a centerpiece of the diet the way that it is now. So I started realizing, well, plant-based diets aren't only just a way to help animals, but they're a way to completely transform the health of my community, the health of my family. Like, why not eat this way? And then I saw Al Gore's documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, and I think that was the first time I really thought about climate change and realized that it was an issue and what was happening. So then I made the connection between climate and plant-based food systems. So all of these reasons, it was my mission. I'm like, I want more people to eat plants. We have to move in that direction. So this leads down to plant futures. Eventually, this led me to getting my master's of public health at UC Berkeley. I had gone to UC Berkeley for undergrad. I studied environmental economics and environmental policy, wanting to work in food systems. And I saw the environmental track as the closest way to get there. Like, okay, well, there wasn't really a food major or anything, but environmental program, the obvious place where they would be talking about. And very little conversation about plant-based eating in the environmental program. It was just kind of like this side topic here and there, but it wasn't a core piece of it, which is very surprising to me. So I graduated and I ended up working in the clean tech sector. I worked in clean energy for a few years and I really loved it, but I knew that my heart was in plant-based food. I knew that's where I wanted to be. I would be at work reading plant-based food articles, reading about new vegan companies and startups, and it's just like, and I knew in my soul I wanted to be working in the plant-based food sector. So one day I made the decision, I'm going to go back to grad school and I'm going to work on developing a skill set that I can apply to food systems. So that led me to getting my master's of public health at UC Berkeley, where public health just seemed like the very obvious place where a lot of these issues would intersect around plant-based eating, sustainability, the health of my community. Was so excited, got into the program, started the program at Berkeley. This is about, I think, 2019 when I started it. And I was so surprised that when I started public health program, no one was talking about plant-based food. No one was talking about animal agriculture. And this is supposed to be one of the most progressive public health programs in the world. And nothing. It was just like, yeah, the plant-based diet, I don't know about that. It's kind of the process Beyond Meat diet, or it would kind of just very quickly get dismissed as this ultra processed diet. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, the abundance of edible plants in this world, and we are dismissing it and calling it the processed Beyond Burger diet. Are you kidding me? Like, this is absolutely insane. Like, I was just so frustrated that we couldn't even have a conversation about plant-centered diets in public health when this is the way that we've been eating forever. And I was actually considering even dropping out of grad school. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. This is a waste of my time. We can't even acknowledge animal agriculture as a public health issue. One thing leads to another, and I ended up channeling my frustration into a project. I had to complete a class project for one of my food courses. And I remember talking to my professor at office hours and told him about my frustration. He's like, Sam, what do you want to do for your project? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I care about plant-based food, but no one at Berkeley seems to be talking about it. And he said, well, why don't you start something? Why don't you start something at the university? Like, we need to be talking about plant-based food. We need to be talking about plant-based diets. This is important. You know what? I'm like, you're right. So took it on as a class project and ended up designing a course, envisioning kind of like the grounding practice at the beginning of this call. I was like, what course would I want? What do I have wanted for myself when I started at Berkeley? What would I have wanted to learn around plant-based food? So I basically just kind of wrote down my dream course, the topics, climate, animals, business, innovation, fermentation, all of these things that were exciting happening in the plant-based food sector, and just kind of dumped them onto a Google Doc. Ended up like forming a syllabus, just kind of designing my dream class around plant-based food. I submitted it to the professor and he says, Sam, I think we're onto something here. I actually think you can get this class approved for academic credit at Berkeley. And I was like, really? I'm like, he's like, yeah, like this is really very robust. I think students are going to get excited about this. So we submitted to the university. I'm like, there's no way they're going to accept this. And so one of the first responses I got from the university, someone from faculty who wasn't a big fan of my work sent me an email saying that I needed to stop pushing my vegan agenda at Berkeley, which was absolutely hilarious. I was like, oh, okay. And I learned one thing I learned through this process of starting Plant Futures is don't take no for an answer. You're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of resistance, especially when it comes to plant-based eating. It's, it can be very political. People get very sensitive about this topic. So I was getting resistance from different directions. Like, you know what, that's not going to stop me. Like, I'm going to find the allies. I'm going to find the people who support me, like my professor, find the tribe. One thing led to another. I started getting a whole kind of like recruiting a cohort of students who were advocating for the curriculum with me. Ended up finding my co-founder. Just a lot of serendipity, a lot of like beautiful things were happening. That one day we get an email from the university saying Sam Plant Futures was accepted as a course accredited at Berkeley at the business school. Like, it's gonna happen. So then my professor calls me. He's like, Sam, you're gonna have to teach a course. And I was like, what? I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. He's like, don't worry, I'll help you. We'll co-teach it. My whole life became Plant Futures that night. I was so excited that this is one of the first plant-based food courses in the world accredited by a university. And there was a potential to reach so many students with this information. So I just poured my heart and soul into this course. And I was so nervous. I was like, if no one signs up for this course, the university is going to drop it. Like, that's, you need to have a certain amount of registration and student feedback for the universities to continue these types of classes. So I was so nervous. I'm like, I am designing the programming. I'm like, but what if no one signs up? What if no one cares about plant-based food? What if I'm the only one on campus who cares about? I didn't even know if one student was going to sign up for this class. And something very magical happened where we opened the course registration. It was online because this happened right when the pandemic was starting. So all of the courses school just suddenly goes online. Everything's in chaos. And we're like, okay, now we have to teach this course virtually. Well, that means we can invite students from different campuses. I'm like, why not? Let's make this information accessible. We started emailing students from different universities. I don't think we were even technically supposed to be doing that, but I was just like, I want to get this information out to the world. We had to cap the course at 500 students. I remember one day opening the registration phase and 500 students had signed up, and I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, I don't even know how to hold that many people on Zoom. And so we had to cap it. But I was just feeling so much gratitude and excitement that students cared about this. Like, students from different universities found out about Plant Futures. They were emailing, hey, we want to audit this. We don't have anything about plant-based food at our campus. I want to be a part of it. So that's a background story. I went on for a little bit longer than I anticipated, but it really does tie into the story and why it exists today is because there is a need. Students care about this. Students want to get jobs in the plant-based food sector. Students want to shift to plant-centered food systems. And education is not doing the job. Universities are not doing the job. So that's really where we come and fill in that gap, is providing students with education and career support and career pathways for working in the plant-based food sector, because we're building the next generation, the talent pipeline for the next generation who's going to be leading food systems, who's going to be leading the transformation of our food system. And if we're not finding that talent when students are in college, we're losing them to other sectors or losing them to other jobs. We need talented, smart people working on these problems. They're massive problems. And it is such a lost opportunity if we're not supporting students in their educational paths and getting them to these food systems jobs. So that is the story behind Plant Futures. With that, I will get a little bit more into what we actually do besides the course, because a lot has evolved since then. So we divide our strategy into 4 C's. We were originally 3 C's. We just added a 4th C. That's why it's not on the slide, but curriculum, community, career development, and culture change, which I'll get into. We have learned that these areas are the most effective leverage points, and they all have essential ingredients for building impactful careers for students. Starting with curriculum, this is part of the intro story that I shared with you all. We actually, since we've started, we actually now have 4 different courses that we have launched over the last few years. This is our newest course, Introduction to Plant-Centric Food Systems. It actually launched this past spring across all 9 University of California campuses, and it's the first course of its kind at the University of California that covers an entire semester of plant-based food. There's a module on climate, module on nutrition, module on business and innovation, module on culinary literacy, everything related to plant-centered food systems. And it gives students this deep dive and introduction to plant-based food. And it's so exciting because this used to only be offered at Berkeley, and the other UC campus started finding out about it, and students were asking their campus, hey, we want this course too. So we ended up getting a grant from the University of California to start this curriculum across all 9 UC campuses. And that was a big milestone for us. So it is available. If any of you are in the University of California system, you have access. You're able to take this course for credit. So one piece of information I forgot to add is after launching this course at Berkeley, I was about to graduate and the course had gone so well. We had gotten so much feedback, and my professor approached me and he said, Sam, what would you think of starting an educational nonprofit so that we can start this course on other campuses? And I was like, I would love to. I'm like, I love plant futures. Like, I love this. I've always wanted to work in the plant-based food sector. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur and do my own thing. So I ended up graduating and starting a nonprofit, the Plant Futures Initiative. And my mentor coached me on fundraising, raising money through philanthropy, getting just the whole process of starting a nonprofit. I had no idea how to start a nonprofit. Had never done that in my life. I had no experience in the nonprofit sector and have just learned through experience. So this was 4 years ago, and now we have a global team. We have 4 full-time staff. We have 6 part-time staff. We've expanded our program to several universities across the US and now in Mexico where I'm living, and we're starting to expand more globally. And I'll share a little bit more about kind of our global work and what we're up to now, but that was kind of the turning point, was taking this class from a UC Berkeley class to a global nonprofit has been a big part of this transition that has helped us reach so many more students. Because at some point I was like, it's great that students at Berkeley are excited about this and taking this for credit, but we're only going to get so far if this is contained within UC Berkeley. This type of information should be available to everyone, everywhere in the world. Everyone should be learning about this. So my objective has always been, how do we get this information to as many students as possible? How do we help as many students as possible find jobs in the plant-based food sector and support them in their career journey? So curriculum is core of what we do. The course, this is one of our courses, the intro course. And then before getting into that, we can stay there. We can stay on this slide. So another course that we have is the Challenge Lab course, which I'll actually speak to in a little bit. But before getting to Challenge Lab course, I'm going to talk a little bit about our second C, which is community. In the last 4 years, as I mentioned, we have grown from a UC Berkeley class to a global student movement. We are about to hit 100 universities, which is a huge, huge milestone for us. We have 95 campuses in our network right now. So these are all Plant Futures student chapters. What's a chapter? So we started the equivalent of student organizations or student clubs on campuses where students were excited about plant-based food. They heard about Plant Futures. They're like, we want to get involved, but we're not a Berkeley student. How do we get involved? So we're like, we need to find a way to talent this energy and this excitement into something productive for students that they can be a part of, like leadership, building skills. Like, how do we bring Plant Futures to other campuses if our course isn't available quite yet? So we started chapters, which is a registered club on campus. Students usually get funding through their campus for their chapters, and they're able to host everything from career networking panels. One chapter started a farmers market on campus, fully plant-based farmers market on their campus. Another chapter is working with their dining halls to add more plant-based options on their menus. So there's a whole kind of variety of activities that are happening in the chapter network, but the whole idea is to support students with building community with like-minded individuals. I always describe it as finding the others. I remember my early days being vegan were so isolating because I didn't know any other vegans. And I just remember that wanting to find vegan friends and wanting to find people who cared about plant-based food and like how important that is in your journey. And similar with students, a lot of students are very isolated around plant-based eating, or they're not really quite sure where to find community around this. So we're like, let's break that barrier and start building these communities at campus. Let's make this a movement. Let's start connecting students with each other. And it is crazy what is possible when you bring talent, passion, energy of students together and what they're able to do on their campus. Like this farmers market they started, transforming dining halls. Like that's work that none of us can do alone. Like we need to build the movements, we need to build coalitions, and we need to work with each other. And we need to find each other. Where are the like-minded individuals? So that's the purpose of Plant Futures chapters, is like, let's bring all the plant futurists together, everyone who's excited about plant-based food, and support them with transforming their campus's food system, their local community's food system, support them with finding lifelong careers. But most importantly, support them with finding friends. I think that's such an important part of this work, is making it fun and finding friends. So many students have become close friends through the chapters. they have hosted plant-based tailgates at football games, which is so exciting. They're having fun. And like, to me, this is very, as you all know, I mean, this can be very heavy, dark, sad work when you really think of the grim reality of factory farming. And we need to make this work fun and find joy in this work, because otherwise it's going to be a really, really difficult journey for all of us. And that's part of what we're doing, is let's make plant-based eating fun. Let's normalize it in spaces where we wouldn't be thinking about it. At football games, we would have never thought that football games would be hosting plant-based tailgates, but now students are hosting these Beyond Burger plant-based tailgates at their football like parties. And it's just like, how do we just bring plant-based into these spaces where we wouldn't necessarily be talking about it? So that's really the drive and the idea behind the chapter network. And we are expanding our chapter network. So if you're interested in joining the chapter network, I'm going to share a little bit more later on how you can be a part of that. And can you all let me know if you hear this okay? I'm going to see if I can play this video really quick so you all can hear directly from the students. I'll take a break from talking. Let me play it and let me know if it sounds okay.
We're not hearing any sound, Samantha.
Oh, sorry, you can't hear it or can't hear it?
Cannot.
Cannot. Okay, interesting. Let's see. Is there a trick here? Do I need to turn on some sort of setting?
Yes, you have to share computer sound.
Okay, let's see. And where can I find that?
So when you first started sharing, it was a checkbox.
Share. Okay. Share sound. I think I see it. Okay. Perfect. Should I put, is this mono or stereo? I don't know if it makes a difference.
It should be fine either way.
Okay, let me try mono then. Can you also see my screen share okay?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. And let me know if it's
My name is William Cumberledge.
My name is Cassandra Bacon.
Hi, my name is Sarah Desange.
My name is Sarah Winter.
My name is Dale Watkins. And
Overall, Plant Futures has been a great catalyst in my personal and my professional growth. Plant Futures has allowed me to connect with other students on campus who are equally passionate about building sustainable plant-based food systems, and recently it allowed me to secure an internship with an organization that I'm incredibly excited to work with.
Being part of Plant Futures has truly been one of the most incredible opportunities I've had in college. It's such an amazing way to meet like-minded individuals at different schools, to work on projects together, and to connect with a community of so many amazing and inspiring people.
I went fully plant-based in college because I found so many other plant-based eaters here, and I had a community with them. And just being around them, having the same mindset, it helped me take that extra step, that extra push to just follow through with this lifestyle that I've been wanting for myself for the last 4 years.
Students that I worked with on the challenge are now, close friends of mine. We've kept in touch. We have really similar interests. So that was a great part of the experience, just meeting other people at Berkeley that share similar interests.
We kind of got together almost every week and saw each other in person and worked on this project together.
Last year, I participated in both the symposium and the challenge lab. So the course pushed me beyond my comfort zone, unlike any other course at UC Berkeley. The intimate collaboration with individuals of varying backgrounds and expertise was the exact interdisciplinary experience I was seeking in my MPH education. Plant Futures gave me the chance to be at the forefront of sustainable food systems innovation and entrepreneurship.
Symposium was absolutely incredible. Really loved the exposure to just leaders throughout the field that are innovating and really driving change. And then the challenge lab was very special. My team had the opportunity to work with a very well-known company, Califia Farms. It was an incredible experience. We were able to work with their founder and senior leadership for 3 months, getting feedback, coaching, and really exploring and having the opportunity to take some agency into figuring out what a product could look like, as well as the go-to-market strategy around that.
Really nice kind of real life application, taking what we had learned in the symposium and kind of hearing from a lot of impactful guest speakers, and then applying it to kind of a real world settings.
For us especially, this is like a totally new domain. None of us have worked with a farm. I think working with a business that is so connected to the community and so connected to their consumers and trying to build that trust and that relationship over time, I think was a really valuable experience for us.
We knew it would be complex, but I think it was super interesting to see it was perhaps even more complex than we initially thought, but that meant there was more to dig into, more to kind of find out about and satisfy our intellectual curiosity on. So really appreciate it, and it's been great working with you guys week to week.
So something I was working on with Eric that never like came to fruition was this thing called the Plant Jam, where we were planning on having like music and food, and like a clothing swap, and just collaborate with a bunch of other clubs. And Kim was super like generous this whole term, actually helping like lift these events off the ground. So the mentorship ended up sort of becoming more of like a friendship and a partnership with Kim.
She was really useful to like just kind of coach me through that, and like, what does a call look like after you've reached out to someone on LinkedIn? Like, what kind of questions are you asking? And that was just really helpful for me, because I really just truly have a lot of anxiety doing that kind of thing.
Two like main things that I took away from this mentorship opportunity was like, one, to just be curious. I guess it's just human nature to be curious, but I mean, since we're trying to change the food system, there's no like blueprint or one way to do it. So you just have to have that curiosity to try something new. And then two is in terms of like networking with people, I think a lot of it can feel like transactional, but you're trying to build like, you know, human connection with them. You're trying to build a relationship.
And I found when I came to college, I was empowered to make my own decisions on what do I want to cook, what do I want to eat, what do I want my day-to-day to look like, what do I want my lifestyle to look like. And I think all these factors combined and that sense of empowerment it gave me, I realized like this is the time of my life where I'm kind of building up what the rest of my adulthood is going to look like, and that includes what I'm choosing to eat.
Don't assume that you don't know a better way is possible. And don't assume that just because that job doesn't exist yet or that work isn't happening right now, that you can't be an igniter of that change to start happening. The struggle is to actually unite people, and not just ignite, but fire them up, make them feel like they have power, make them feel that they can make change. You can always bring people together around food, which is the beautiful thing.
All right. So now that you've heard from our students, let me just rearranging the screen here. Here we go. So you might have heard, there were a couple things you might have heard referenced in the video. One is the Challenge Lab course, which is our really a career pathway job applied learning experience course. And let me actually skip to that slide and I'll come back to this one, because this is a pretty core part of what we do, as I mentioned earlier, is connecting students to jobs. So it's this slide right here. One of the things that we do in this Challenge Lab course that's offered at UC Berkeley right now is we partner with different plant-based food companies. It could also be nonprofits, it can be government, like not necessarily just plant-based, not just food companies, but anything working on accelerating a plant-forward food system. So it could be anything from local policy change to campus dining halls. This is just a part of the cohort of the companies that we work with. We've actually worked with many more since we've started this course, and it's been pretty amazing because we have had students from all academic disciplines, everything from journalism, public health, business, joining this class, showing them how they can apply their skill set to the food system, and showing them we need everyone in this work. This is not just for students with science backgrounds. It's not just for students with a specific major, food science major. We need everyone transforming food systems. And this Challenge Lab shows them this is how you do it with your skill set, and really gives them that direct exposure to working with the sector. So a lot of what the students were talking about in that video were the jobs, the mentors that they got from that class. And many of our students actually ended up getting jobs or internships coming out of this class. So it ended up becoming not just an educational experience, but a career pathway for students who might now be working in the plant-based food sector for the rest of their life because of this experience they had working with the company, working with a mentor, which just again goes to show how important this time is in a student's life when they're thinking about their careers, or that they're going to dedicate the rest of their life to. They're going to dedicate so many hours of their lifetime to this job. We want that talent and we want that passion in food systems. We want students helping us build a plant-centered world, and we have to provide them with the skills, with the networks, with the mentorship, with all of those things that you need to find jobs. And that's really where we come in, is filling that gap. So taking a step back, how do we go back here? There we go, 11. Plant Futures Fest. So this is another core part of what we do in our community work is events. We host an annual event where we bring together all of our student chapters, different guest speakers. We eat a bunch of plant-based food from local companies. This past year, we did it in Washington, D.C. The year before, we did it in Oakland. And it's just such a fun time. And I think it's also just the power. Every time we're in those environments and those festivals with other plant eaters and we're just networking and hanging out and having fun, it's just a reminder of the power of community and the power of making spaces where we can all hang out and talk and have these discussions. It's similar to this conference as well, whether it's virtual, in person, creating these spaces for conversation is so critical. And it's so important to be reminded there are like-minded people out there fighting the good fight. Because I know for me, sometimes it's easy to watch the news and just see all the horrible things that are happening and feeling very alone and isolated. But then I'm reminded, no, there are so many amazing people out there doing good work. And it's so important for us making spaces to find each other, to hang out. This is where ideas emerge. This is where motivation and excitement comes from. So I'm going to quickly show, I'm gonna have to stop my share for this. Another quick clip. I'm just gonna have to share this from YouTube. Here we go. All right. Share screen. 1 second. Hopefully the live music in the background isn't too loud. All right, let's see if y'all can see that. All right, now it's you can kind of see there we go. All right, here we go. Plants for the future!
And I just wanted to thank everyone who attended, who fostered this sense of community, of belonging, of love, and most importantly, of hope.
Watching the remarkable growth of this movement over the past 3 decades fills me with hope. It reaffirms my belief that we can indeed shape a world that aligns with our values, a world rooted in compassion for animals, environmental sustainability, thriving health and well-being for all, social justice, global food security, and ethical consumerism.
What's one piece of advice that you can inspire everyone in this room to keep on going?
Community is key. Whatever career, whatever endeavor that you take on, community is key.
This moment of going away to college and rethinking our food lives is really a profound moment.
Don't let up on whatever your dream is. We're all very different and we all have something to contribute. And if you feel something inside of you and it feels right, don't let up on it. Regardless of the barriers, obstacles, you keep going.
We love Plant Future!
Oops, all right. Back to my other screen. Let's see here. There we go. All right. Next up. Just a quick overview, going back to community, what our students are up to, just a few pictures from different campuses, the type of work that they've been doing, everything from Beyond Meat sampling days to, like I mentioned, the tailgates. They did a Miyoko's pop-up at one of our campuses. There's just been so much happening in the Plant Futures Network, and it's just, the students are very creative. We also want Plant Futures to make it what you want it to be. Like, we're not gonna here to tell you, like, you have to do this, here's your ABC checklist. Like, no. Make it fun, find community. Our main value is plant-based food. You can only serve plant-based food at the event. Like, it's all plant-based. Besides that, have fun with it. Be creative, do whatever you want. Like, we're just here to build community about plant-based food. And it's so awesome seeing how creative students get with their events, with their pop-ups, what they're doing on their campus. And the network has grown significantly. And there's just a lot of geographic diversity, ethnic diversity, racial diversity in our network, which we love seeing too, because a lot of what we're thinking about is being very intentional of who are our future food leaders, who's going to be running the food system, and we want representation in those leaders. I think 70%, last time I checked, 70% of our chapter members are female, and I think around 50% identify as BIPOC. So we're also really intentional about the students we're reaching and making sure that this community network resources is available to everyone. Here's another example of an awesome event that one of our chapters hosted. We weren't even involved with this one. Sometimes we host we host our big event every year. That was a Plant Futures Fest that I just showed you, but students have done amazing things to their campus, and we'll find out later. They're like, oh, American University just threw this huge veg fest, the Plant Futures chapter, and I had no idea until after it happened. So it's just like, again, showing what is possible when you bring students together and when they're excited and when they have passion. It's just, they do the most amazing, amazing things. I talked about the challenge lab a bit. Career fair. So I did talk a little bit about career pathways, why we're setting students up with careers in the plant-based food sector. And just going back to this moment in time in college, not only are students finding the jobs that they're going to exploring what jobs they're going to do for the rest of their lives, which is such a critical moment, but they're also, for the first time, many students are sometimes living out of their parents' home for the first time. It's the first time in their life they have food autonomy and they're making their own food choices. So there's a lot of interesting data and research that shows that food habits that students form in college, they're very, very likely to carry on with them through adulthood and possibly the rest of their lives. So if we're not teaching students about plant-based diets in college, again, there's a very huge opportunity to expose them to this way of eating, types of just food options that are possible. If the dining halls aren't serving plant-based options, where else are they going to get exposure to this work? Or to this way of eating? And it's just so critical that universities are fostering environments where students have education, access to plant-based food, access to community, because of how critical this moment in time is. So that's really where we think about it, is like, where are the gaps? Where are the challenges? Where are universities not doing work? And that's where we see the opportunities, and that's where we can fill in those gaps and really support students. It has always been student-led and student-driven. This was started by students. I was a student, and it's still to this day, like, it is designed for students. We're here to help, but we really want students to be the center, to be the voice, and to be the leaders in Plant Futures in this movement, because they're the ones on the ground. They're the ones changing campus dining halls. They're the ones advocating for a curriculum education in our hall. We just kind of exist as a support network through the nonprofit to help them in that process, but it's really, really student-led and student-driven. So the fourth C, culture change. And this one is one that I'm very, very excited about. This is a newer one. One thing, and I might have mentioned this at the beginning, I love electronic music. I love music festivals. It's always been a big part of my life. And one thing I noticed pretty much every music festival I ever went to is, I don't know if you all have been to music festivals, there aren't that many good vegan options. There just aren't. The amount of times I've been in a music festival and the plant-based option is so sad or limited, or if you're at a music festival, if you've been out to one of these bigger ones like Coachella or EDC, it's a long day. You need fuel to keep going. You need fuel. You need access to good plant-based options. So it's one thing I always notice is, like, why is there such a lack of options at these festivals? Music festivals, music, arts, sports, these are all kind of agents of culture change, trends, influencers, like all of these different factors that ultimately shape culture are present at music festivals. This is where, like, new ideas emerge. And not only that, people come to music festival in a very open-minded, open-hearted space, because they're there to have fun, to disconnect from work. And I have found that people, even when I go with my friends at festivals who aren't vegan, they're so much more likely to try the vegan option if they're with me. They're like, yeah, of course, why not? I want to opt in for the healthy option. And not only that, there's data coming out too at music festivals. People are more likely to opt into the plant-based option because they want to feel healthier. They want to feel lighter when they're dancing all night. They don't want to eat something like greasy processed that's going to make them feel like bloated and tired and weighed down. So when you have to be standing and dancing for hours, no way, you can't be eating like that. So why, again, missed opportunity if we're not serving plant-based options at festivals. So recently, Plant Futures actually started getting more into this work. And we were invited last year. Portola was the first music festival we were invited to. We actually got invited with the press. We got backstage access to cover and make stories around the plant-based food that was at Portola. Portola did a really good job last year on plant-based, including plant-based food vendors. So we went, interviewed some of the vendors, including vegan hood chefs, if you all are familiar with them. Not only that, an unexpected thing happened. This picture, I don't know if you all can see in the middle, that is a DJ duo called Tin Liquor. We ended up interviewing some of the artists at the festival. They happened to be vegetarian, and I didn't know that at the time. Emailed them asking for an interview. Hey, would you be willing to be interviewed around plant-based food and sustainability? Turns out they're vegetarian without knowing it. We had this awesome interview with them, and they were talking about, like, the importance of offering plant-based food options in the music industry, in the music festival. They're like, these artists have such massive platforms. If we get more artists speaking about this and advocating for this, could be huge. This could be massive and transformational for the music festival industry. So after this experience, we got so excited. We're like, what if we start getting all of our students at their local music festival making stories, making content around plant-based food, advocating for plant-based food, just bringing more awareness, more of a platform, amplifying the work that's being done around sustainability and plant-based food in the industry. It kind of sets the precedent and it kind of puts pressure on other music festivals to be like, oh, hey, Portola is doing that. We need to be doing that too. Oh, wow, that music festival is doing plant-based food. We need to do that too. So last year we went to, or no, sorry, not last year. This year we went to Electronic Daisy Carnival, EDC Vegas. It's one of the biggest electronic music festivals in the world. Got invited, same experience, got to interview artists, different DJs, vendors around plant-based food. And this work has been so well received by our students because they love music festivals. Like this is the audience that is going to music festivals. So they're all like, hey, like we want to go to music festivals, and how do we do this in a way that's aligned with our values? How can we have fun, but do it sustainably, do it in a way that's kind to our body, kind to animals, kind to the planet? And it's just kind of showing students that being plant-based, living this way, it doesn't have to be restrictive. You don't have to stop doing the things that are fun. You don't have to give up things. You don't have to, I think people sometimes perceive it as being this very limiting, restrictive way of eating. Like I'm just going to lose so many things. And it is the absolute opposite. It completely enhances your life. And this brings so much abundance and joy when you can go do the things you love, but make them better and make a choice that's better for you, better for the planet, better for animals. It makes the experience so much better. And that's something we even talked about with people at music festivals and attendees talking about, yeah, like I actually feel so much better, you know, in my mind, my body, and my soul when I opted for plant-based. Music festival had a great option. And you know what? I'm going to go back home and I'm probably going to start buying more plant-based options because I tried this amazing meal at the music festival. So anyways, I could talk about this forever because I get very excited about this. I just think there's so much potential here if we start thinking about plant-based eating more about how do we meet students where they're at, whether it's at a sports game, whatever it is, arts, sports, music, and show them that sustainability, it's not just, it's a lifestyle. It's not just a course. It's not just like a degree that you get that's a sustainability piece of paper. No, it's your day-to-day choices. It's one choice can have so much impact. Opting for one plant-based meal at a music festival with your friends, showing you how good plant-based food, and then there you go home and start buying more plant-based, just has this ripple effect. And I think this is a huge untapped territory that we're starting to do more work in, and we're activating our students to get out there and to be spokespersons for these industries and to start putting pressure. And I actually think the music festival industry is headed in that direction. So that's something I cannot wait to grow our work in this. And if it's something any of you all are interested in, feel free to reach out to me. There's a lot of work to be done here. With that, I'm going to show you all just a very quick clip of EDC. So this is the electronic festival I mentioned, and I'm just going to show you all some of the work we did there. If I can get my screen to fit, there we go. This is from our Instagram, where you can see quite a bit of our work. Let's see here. All right, getting Instagram to fit on this screen. Here we go. All right. See if this works. Oh. Daisy Carnival. I'm Mariah. Check out EDC with us tonight. Neon lights, nonstop beats, and next-level plant-based flavor. This is the future of electronic music. Plant Futures hit the ground at EDC Vegas, invited to cover the growing wave of plant-based innovation at one of the world's biggest music festivals. We explored the festival's plant-based food and sustainability initiatives, and in between lasers and stages, 2 local food vendors stood out, serving flavors that fuel the night and the planet. From savory tacos to mushroom shawarma wraps that hit just right, these meals kept us dancing until sunrise, powered by joy, energy, and a better future.
More people are more health conscious. Everyone's trying to make a better choice to kind of feel better about themselves. And being at such a huge event like EDC Las Vegas, I think it's just all sort kind of like that coming out better, not versus feeling all nasty after and feeling so full or like overwhelmed and whatnot. So it's like having those healthier eating alternatives, you're able to kind of enjoy that and still feel good about it.
Sometimes people are just looking for something a little bit lighter so they can dance a little bit longer.
And don't sleep on the after-hours sunrise meal, plant-powered sushi to close out the night with intention. The food was just the beginning. Follow us for more from our Plant Futures journey at EDC Vegas. Hi, I'm Samantha here. All right, and I'm going to show one more quick one. Actually, a couple more quick ones, just 1-minute clips.
and I am being mindful of the time, but I do want to show you all just a couple more before we start wrapping things up. Let's see.
EDC, and I have
See if this works. Nope.
sustainability. Okay, so 1 month after EDC, and I have some reflections to share. This wasn't just a rave, it was a crash course in how music, food, and culture can spark real change. Lesson number 1, rave culture is radical openness. The electronic dance community is different. There's no judgment, just acceptance. People show up open-minded, and that spills into everything. You talk about climate, animals, justice, and people listen, they care. Even the small choices, like opting for the plant-based meal, stick with you. You try it once at a music festival, and suddenly you're more likely to choose it again at home. These aren't just festival values, they become lifestyle shifts. Lesson number 2, DJs are culture shifters with a massive reach. When a big DJ like Rusko shouts out the importance of plant-based food and sustainability at one of the biggest festivals in the world, it just lands. DJs aren't just performers, they're cultural architects. They shape mindsets, they shape movements. One message from the mic can ripple through the whole crowd and beyond. Lesson number 3, purpose amplifies the party. I used to think that bringing sustainability into music culture meant compromising the fun, but actually, it enhances it. When you experience aligns with your values, it just hits deeper. Dancing under solar-powered lights, sharing water from refill stations, eating food that's good for the planet, it feels right. So yeah, music festivals are beautiful on their own, but music festivals with a purpose, that's the future. Let's build that world together and follow Plant Futures to be part of the movement, fuel the shift to plant-based culture, and turn the party into a platform for change. 3 lessons.
All right. And last but not least, one more video to show. We got to interview, I might have mentioned, one of the DJs at the festival who wasn't even vegan or vegetarian, but talked about plant-based food and talked about how when he's touring, he prefers a plant-based option because he feels healthier. He's like, I don't want to go on stage and play feeling weighed down with a burger. He's like, that's gross. He's just like, I want to eat the plant-based option. So just like one example of how a DJ with such a massive platform making a statement like that can have so much influence on people who follow him. So I will show that very quickly. One moment here. Let's see if I can share screen. There we go. And let me start this again.
The festival industry as a whole, or as a musician, has a responsibility to leave the planet better than how we found it.
Oh, massively, 100%.
At EDC, my passions for electronic music and sustainability collided, proving that music festivals aren't just parties, but platforms for culture change and a plant-powered future.
I saw you when I first started raving, my first electronic show in my entire life.
Right.
It opened my mind to electronic music and my world.
I had the chance to interview Rusko, the first DJ I ever saw live when I was 18 years old. We talked about the role of sustainability and plant-based food in revolutionizing the music festival scene.
So we have a university network of close to 100 universities across the world that are focused on sustainable food system. You really see music festivals as a place that are really influential for culture. Do you think the music festival industry has a responsibility to leave the planet better than how we found it? And how can we think about that in our day-to-day action?
Oh, massively, 100%. I mean, especially an event of this scale, like you can't not. And I'm hoping that, as I say, things like you guys are doing, I mean that year after year, there's less things to kind of fix it. But I've seen a massive increase in options of food at festivals. That's a big thing. And now there's a whole ton of like good plant-based options and vegan options.
About EDC, this is a place where culture, sustainability, and all people come here in a very open-minded and open-hearted space.
I think the strongest thing we have in the community is community. You know, the sense of togetherness, and that I think is the strongest thing we have. People being able to influence each other, and the fact that one person doing good things, they can spread really quickly.
Follow Plant Futures for more behind-the-scenes coverage of what sustainability means.
Amazing. All right. I will get back to the presentation. It gave me a little break from the talking too, but I got to share a few of those because that has been a growing part of our work. And like I said, something I'm excited about, has so much potential. As you all might know, Billie Eilish is vegan. It's doing a lot of amazing work with bringing more plant-based options to music festivals and the music industry. So I think there is something emerging in the music festival industry, and we're just in the early stages of it. So I think it's very exciting, opposite way. So being mindful, we just have a few minutes left. I'm going to start wrapping up. Looking ahead, what's next at Plant Futures? What's happening? Like I mentioned, our curriculum, the purpose of our curriculum is to educate students about the future of plant-centered food systems and make that information as widely accessible as possible. We just launched our first certification course that's accessible to students anywhere in the world who can sign up, take this class, and receive a Plant Future certificate. You can find out more on our website if you're interested in taking the class. Our purpose is to make this, break it out of the University of California where it's hosted for credit right now, and make it accessible everywhere. So that will be available very soon to more and more students. We're starting to pilot small programs that we're going to expand across our network. We are starting to expand globally. I might have mentioned I'm in Africa right now. I actually just came for a summit on animal and vegan advocacy and got to meet with a bunch of different students and leaders who are interested in joining the movement, starting Plant Futures chapters in Africa, which is very exciting. Right now, we only have global presence in Mexico, where I'm living. We have a very quickly growing Mexico program. If anyone is based in Latin America, we actually just got some support to launch a curriculum in Spanish next year in Mexico. So we're going to be launching our first Spanish curriculum for Spanish speakers adapted to the Mexican context. It's going to be led and designed by our Mexico team who lives in Mexico. And we're so excited about that. So keep an eye out for our global work if you're interested in, curriculum, all things kind of plant-based on campuses. And just some quick lessons as an entrepreneur. Like I mentioned, I think at the core of all of this is living in alignment with your values, whether that's your job, your work, how you're showing up in the world, your diet. I really trust your intuition, your gut knows, and you're doing something that's out of alignment with what you should be doing, whether that's your job, whether that's a relationship, whether that's the way that you're eating that's harming your body. Trust your gut and live in alignment with your values, and life will be so much more beautiful. Life will flow in the most incredible ways. And that's something we really show and teach our students, is finding those jobs that are in alignment with their values and that are going to shift and change the future of the planet. And they just find so much joy and abundance when they find those jobs. And they reach back out to us saying that they're working for a plant-based food company. And it's just so amazing to see them put their talent, passion to work. Don't take no for an answer. Keep pushing. This is hard work. If I had taken the first no at Berkeley, listened to the person who told me to stop pushing my vegan agenda, this probably would, none of this would exist today. So don't let people bring you down, and find your tribe, find the others, find the like-minded people. Plant Futures has shown me that there are so many students, youth, young professionals, everyone looking to build a plant-centered future, and it gives me so much hope. There are thousands of students out there looking to do this work, and we'd love for you to join us. I could go on and on about lessons, but I do want to make sure I see a couple hands up, so I will just wrap it up to leave it open to a couple of questions, and just want to find some ways, list some ways that you can stay in touch with us and get involved. I'm also going to drop this in the chat. That is my personal website, where I started writing a personal email around a lot of the work at Plant Futures. It's a personal newsletter that I'm sending out. My LinkedIn is on there, but then we have our organizational pages. We have our Plant Futures newsletter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I know there are a lot of different links, but there are various ways to stay in contact with us. And we'd love for you all to join this movement and support the work that you all are doing too. I know that so many of you are doing incredible work in plant-based food and climate justice in so many areas, and we are just here to support and to bring more students into this work too. So with that, I'll pause because I see a couple hands up.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, your energy and passion is wonderful. We want you here in every city. And go ahead. We're going to let Allison ask a question, and then Danny has some questions from the chat, and then I'll see Christian. The only thing is we only have 4 minutes. So go, Allison.
Okay, I'm not even going to come on screen. I just want to say hello to Samantha. I'm Allison. I was the one who first contacted you, and I live in Lima, Peru, and I'll be the first one to want to use your Spanish curriculum. I'm hooked up with all of the universities here in Lima, Peru specifically. So yeah, let's go. Thank you so much.
I love it. Let's do it. I can't wait to chat more. I personally love Peru, so I would love that. I would love that. Let's be in contact.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great.
That's fantastic. All right, Danny, you have a question.
I have several questions from the chat. I'm going to rattle off the first 3 from one person.
Okay.
Who asks, how's the vegan situation in Zanzibar? I've been creating a vegan Mexican database, if you'd like to see it. I have a vegan education database of courses, certifications, schools, etc. Maybe the next step is a degree, but besides that, if there's any links, could I be sent them? And those are from Brittany. Oh, and last question, Chad, is the vegan studies course that was at UCSB a part of this UCB one? And then we have 2 more questions, I believe.
Amazing. Quite a few questions there. I'm not sure what order to answer them in. I did, so if I don't get to all of them, I did drop my email in the chat. I'd be happy to have a follow-up call with any of you. I'm sorry I didn't leave more time to answer questions, but my contact information is in there. Vegan situation in Zanzibar, I think that was the first one. I've only been here half a day, and I've had some amazing fresh juices, mango juice, pineapple juice, a vegan curry earlier. So far, it's looking good. I'm not familiar with the vegan studies course. I don't think it's associated with Plant Futures. We might know the people who are teaching it, not super familiar. And I'm blanking on the middle questions. But yeah, like I said, feel free to reach out if you want to talk more about any of this.
Okay, thank you so much.
Can we keep going? Do we have time?
Yeah, go for it. If you
Okay, great.
I'm happy to stay on for as long as I need to, but I don't know if you all have other speakers.
We have 2 minutes.
Great. Okay. Paige Parsons Roach asks, what would you say to anyone who is presenting plant-based initiatives to universities, and how do we reach you?
Okay, one very important lesson I didn't talk about much in my presentation. I've learned who we're working with at the universities, we've had to stay away from the word vegan. And that could be a whole nother presentation on why, but I think there's still a lot of stigma around it, and it gets very political. People get very defensive. It doesn't work. Plant-centered and plant-based is the way to get on universities' radars and attentions. And that's the approach that we've been having. And it has actually been very effective. And I'm happy to chat more about that. If you like, I would just recommend, I think in some contexts it's fine to use vegan, but just being aware that most people are turned off by that word, sadly. Because I think it's the most beautiful lifestyle and way to live, but a lot of people aren't very receptive to that word. So, and we actually have a lot of non-vegan students in our network because of our plant-centered messaging, because our plant-based messaging, because they feel like, oh, I don't have to be vegan to be part of Plant Futures, which is exactly what we want. We want everyone in this. We don't just want vegans. We want to speak to everyone. So that's something, and I'd be happy to chat more about how, like, the actual logistics of starting a plant-based initiative. We can definitely support with that. So feel free to reach out to me as well.
Thank you. Last question from the chat. Is the festival you held in California only in person, or is there virtual programming you have as well? Do you hold virtual summits for both students and non-students? Thank you.
We have both. We have in-person and virtual. Most of our programming is actually virtual. We only do one in-person event a year through our nonprofit. Our student chapters have in-person events that they're hosting on their own, but through our nonprofit, most of our programming is virtual. You can find out everything we're doing virtually on our newsletter. Instagram, I'm pretty sure our team posts most of our stuff there. LinkedIn, all of those that I've shared, you can learn more about that. And we do have some for non-students too. We'd love for you to join. We would love that. So definitely would recommend following us and joining any of our seminars and workshops.
Okay, thank you so much. And so we're going to bring up the next person, and that is
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It was so wonderful. Feel free to reach out with any other questions. Take care.
Okay, we have a question here in the chat in person. Caitlin, what is your question?
I get to go. Oh, sorry, Samantha, to keep you for one more moment. Well, first off, thank you for what you're doing with the festival idea. Is absolutely brilliant. You make my dreams come true, and so thank you. I'm a professor at Penn State. Penn State is very kind of backward. They're very proud of their creamery, but I'm a nutrition professor at Penn State trying to forge my movement towards plant-based diets. And my quick question: I want you for my students. You're doing wonders. What's the first step? How do I set it up at Penn State? Because I doubt there is a chapter, right? There's no chapter.
I know that we've done some outreach in Pennsylvania. I know we've talked to Penn State, but I don't think there's officially a chapter yet, my understanding. Let's chat. I would love to start a chapter there, but it's not active already. I know we've done some outreach at Penn State, but I'll double check with our community manager who does that work and see where we are with that. I'd love to. So feel free. I don't know if you grab my email in the chat. I think that'd be the fastest way if you want to email me.
First step. Okay, I will reach out.
Wait, no, I didn't add my email. I added my LinkedIn, which also works, but let me go ahead and just drop my email so you all have it too.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Wow, that was fantastic. And you're also, remember to go to the Trello board. And if you didn't get to ask a question, and I know you have them, you can get in touch with her. You can still put your questions in the chat in under questions for Q&A for maybe a later time. We'll be able to get to them. Well, thank you again, Samantha. We look forward to seeing
Thank you so
again.
much.
You bet.
Yes, likewise. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. Really, really grateful to have been here. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. We want to see you again. All right. Oh my goodness, that was so wonderful and so inspiring. That's just what we needed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pause the live stream. So if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, we're going to pause for 2 hours or stop the live streaming for 2 hours, and then we'll be back. Why? Because we have something very special, a documentary. And now I'm going to welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to the 22nd Vegan Convergence of the Peoples Thriving on Planting. I am, oh, well, we can, okay, that's right. Sorry. We are pleased to introduce to you one of our climate healers extraordinaire. He's also executive director of the International Vegan Film Festival. He's going to introduce our film. Thank you so much, Ray Kowalczyk.
Thank you, Rebecca. As mentioned, I'm the executive director of the International Vegan Film Festival, and I want to say a few things about that. The Vegan Film Festival identifies what kind of festival it is, what kind of films you're going to see, but it's also identifying a new cinematic genre. I think that there's, a huge flux of vegan films, and it's now time for us to start curating that genre. But it also identifies not just what's on the screen, but who's in the audience. So the vegans that are part of this, I want everybody to know this is a volunteer-run organization, and you have the ability to be part of this festival. And reach out to me and follow our newsletter. Our website's theivff.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter there and be informed of the developments, as our next VCOP is going to be held in Toronto in conjunction with the International Vegan Film Festival. So we're going to bring these two great things together, and we want you to be part of it if you can make it to Toronto. If not, it'll be a hybrid that we'll be able to participate as we are now via Zoom. And I've been involved in the festival since the beginning, but only just in the last couple of months have become the executive director. I've entered the festival a few times and have been a volunteer. And I had the privilege to be the red carpet photographer last year. And I took pictures of this guy, Hugo de Almeida. And I'm a bit of an upgrade for me. So I'm now running the festival, and it's good to see you again, Hugo.
Nice to see you, Ray. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I've got a bit of an introduction prepared. I was excited to see that you got your start in storytelling and visuals with video games.
Yeah,
it
was with Machinima. I used to make films in Second Life. It was my start, in the beginning. I didn't have money for cameras, so I used virtual worlds to create my films in the beginning.
I wasn't aware of the genre of storytelling until I looked up that you were involved in it, and it's something that I've done, and I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah.
Capturing scenes from video games, and I'm an editor, so I like to take any pictures and put them together and tell stories. So that's amazing. And you were winning awards doing this, which is pretty cool. And then started getting awards in specifically film festivals with the same.
It was. In the beginning, I start just for fun, and then the reaction online of people was so big that actually when they put my films on film festivals, it was without my authorization, and the films won anyway. So, but it was a part of my life where I was able to express myself in a creative way, but sooner I start feeling that I needed to explore the real world. It was very important for me, social topics, things that we need to talk, and sometimes is not easy for us to talk and to show to people. So the real world started calling me. But it was a wonderful start because I didn't have money for cameras, for a production. So it was me and a computer and a virtual world.
And one of those topics that you discussed is universal basic income. You did a web series on that, and that's a topic that we've covered and had guests on the VCOP itself. So that's all these different problems and systems that we have to solve all at the same time, but it's an exciting time to do that.
It is. Actually, I don't like easy topics. I like time to explore and to find a way to try to create a product or a document for people to inform themselves. I think we really need to do this nowadays because with so much information, with so much disinformation, we need to organize content in a way for people to understand it, for people not feel attacked when they see it. That is very, very, very important. And in this topic of veganism, I think is really similar, but we need to create. I was a university teacher for 5 years, so I think I brought a bit of what I was trying to give to my students inside of the classroom to my films. I wanted to give some information for people to be aware of the things that are happening in the world, that we need to pay attention, and that sometimes, we don't talk about it. Universal basic income is one of those topics. No one talks. Everyone that hears about universal basic income in the first moment start, oh, that is something really nasty, and they don't even try to understand why we are thinking about universal basic income. So there is always a reason behind for us to think about these strategies to improve our planet, to improve our society. But most people are not aware and they are not open to listen. So we need to make an effort to make content that educates, that informs people, and actually to call people to the fight. I think that is the most important thing, because it's very easy for a director to say, I'm going to pick a topic and I'm going to create something really shocking, because I know shock creates buzz. It's much more difficult to say, no, I'm going to explore a topic and I'm going to create a documentary or a video or whatever that brings people to the cause and says, it's your option. You can change life. You can improve the planet. You can improve your health. You can improve society. It's up to you. It's not up only to the politicians. It's not up only to the organizations. We have we can do something. And I like to put that in my documentaries. I like to call the attention to people and to create a call to action for them to change.
Absolutely. And if anybody felt that universal basic income doesn't seem like a vegan issue, consider if we change our employment systems. Everybody's too busy to do activism because they've got work. So if this is an idea that is quite often resisted because the systems are trying to preserve themselves. They don't want people to express themselves. They don't want people to tune into VCOP and become part of a movement. Movements are going to change everything. So there's so much depth to what we're talking about here, and we should get back together again for a future VCOP. We're going to be doing this again in Toronto. Are you willing to come back to Toronto and
I would love it
for the next VCOP?
Toronto is amazing. Toronto is amazing, and I love you guys.
We'd love to have you back. Yeah. And I should mention that Hugo has gone on to become a filmmaker and making documentaries, and his film Karn, The Unsustainable Footprint, won the top prize at the International Vegan Film Festival, the vegan themed feature film. And we're about to watch it now. And stay tuned, because Hugo will be able to answer some questions that I'm sure you've got already. But this is the perfect film for VCOP. Climate healers and your themes mesh very well, and I think everybody's going to enjoy it.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Hugo.
I hope so.